Enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. My family was extremely poor. We only had 3 mu of dry land. My father tended to those 3 mu as if he were serving our ancestors. But no matter how well he cared for it, the grain harvested each year was never enough to fill the 10 mouths in our family. My grandparents were elderly, and my 3 younger uncles were still bachelors, spending their days wandering the village from east to west, knowing only how to gossip. They were the very definition of lazy. My youngest aunt and I were the same age. We were my grandparents' treasures. That year, the snow fell heavily. There had been no food in the house for days. Seeing that the whole family was about to starve to death, my father went to the city to find work. A matchmaker from the village came and offered 4 taels of silver for me. I sold myself. On the day I left, my mother cried until she fainted several times. She gave me her only dowry, a single velvet flower. I took 2 taels and presented them to the family, then quietly gave the remaining 2 taels to my mother, telling her that no matter what, she had to raise my younger brother and sister. On that day, the snow was falling heavily. My father, who had gone to the county seat for work, had not yet returned. My mother, carrying my brother and sister, stood in the wind and snow to see me off. It was so cold, yet my mother didn't even have an overcoat. The donkey cart pulling me went further and further away. The snow was so thick that my vision soon blurred. In total, 12 girls were sold with me. We were all from our village and the neighboring ones, and our ages were not far apart. Although we had been bought by the matchmaker, at least we were fed every day. Families who could be ruthless enough to sell their daughters would certainly not have treated them well at home. Every day, they chattered endlessly. I just listened silently, wondering where we would be sold next. The journey was difficult, lasting over a month. By the time we arrived in Bianjing, it was already spring. The matchmaker locked us in a small courtyard. On the first day, she took the 5 prettiest girls out. A few days later, she took the rest. I was sold to the Wen family in the west of the city, assigned to the second courtyard. I heard the master of the house was a 7th rank official. I was assigned to the second Mrs. Courtyard as a coarse workmaid, doing daily sweeping and odd jobs. The Wen family household was simple. Besides the madam, there was only one concubine, who had been madam's dowry maid. The 3 masters were all born to the madam. I heard they were sent to study at a famous academy in Xianxia, returning no more than twice a year. All 3 masters were handsome, but the most beautiful was the first master, Caspian Wen, who looked like an immortal from heaven. The eldest Miss Yuniang, also born to the madam, was 13 this year. She seemed quiet and reserved, but her temperament wasn't very good. The second Miss Pearl was born to the concubine. She was only 7 this year, round and fair like a steamed bun, and loved to laugh. As the youngest, she suffered from a bit of simple-mindedness, so everyone in the family doted on her. The Wen family was not harsh with its servants. I had been here for a year and had already gained weight. Every month, the madam gave each of us 200 copper coins, with bonuses on holidays. I quietly saved this money, wondering if I'd ever have the chance to bring it home. For me, these days were all good days. How could this work compare to the labor back home? In my free time, I learned knot tying, embroidery, and sewing, chatting with the other maids about everything under the sun. The eldest Miss Yuniang was skilled in poetry and painting, and the head maid by her side was just as capable. She was warm-hearted and never stingy, teaching us to read whenever she had time. Then one day, I heard that one of the girls sold to Bianjing with me had been beaten to death by her master. Only then did I realize how fortunate I was to have met a good family. I was living a life blessed by the gods, but the disaster came too quickly. In the year I turned 14, I don't know what crime the master committed, but the Wen family's assets were seized. Males and females over 15 were sent to the death prison. Those younger received lighter sentences. The night before their home was confiscated, Madame Wen returned all the servitude contracts and gave each of us 10 taels of silver, giving the female servants a chance to live. When the Wen family fell, most of the servants, being recently purchased, scattered in a single night. I held the money I had saved over the years, preparing to return to my village. But when I looked at the second miss, now 9 years old and still so clueless, my heart softened. The Wen family's home was gone, and she and I had nowhere to go. She could no longer use her old name, Chuang. I gave her a new name, Pearl. She would be my little sister. My name was Rosalind Chen. The Wen family was in the death prison. Even if I used all the money in my hands, I wasn't sure I could even see them once. I had to keep Pearl alive. To live, we needed food and shelter. I was strong and wasn't afraid of hard work. I had learned a few characters and knew how to do accounts. I rented a small boat and started a business selling wine on the Bianjing River. Naturally, wine had to be served with food. In the summer and autumn, I sold marinated shrimp and crabs. In the winter, I made hearty snacks to warm the stomach. After deducting the rental fee, I earned 37 taels of silver in the first year. The Wen family's case, which had been so tumultuous, seemed destined for immediate execution, but a year passed with no further news. I sewed a long, cotton-padded robe and, bringing wine and food, I took Pearl to visit her father, mother, brothers, and her own mother, the concubine. Pearl happily wore the red cotton robe I had made for her, holding my hand and swinging it cheerfully. The prison was no longer as strict as it had been the previous year. I spent 2 taels of silver, and the head jailer let Pearl and me inside. The prison was dark and smelled foul. Pearl, being timid, gripped my hand, her eyes frantic like a lost little rabbit. I patted her hand and said, "It's okay. Your sister Rosalind is here." She managed a small smile, and 2 tiny dimples appeared at the corners of her mouth. The whole family was locked in one cell. I almost didn't recognize Madame, Master Wen, or the concubine. They had become so dark and gaunt. Of the 3 young masters, only 2 were present. The one missing was the first master, Caspian. I had only met them 3 or 4 times, and their ages were only a year or 2 apart. Seeing them now, I couldn't tell who was who. I didn't know where the missing one had gone. But at least the people here still looked human. The head jailer opened the cell for us for half an hour. Straw was spread in the corners, which must have been where they slept. Pearl looked at the 2 people she had missed so dearly, her father and mother, and couldn't recognize them. She hid behind me, peeking out, not daring to step forward. After a long moment, Master Wen called out, "Qiong Niang." She still remembered her name was Qiong Niang. She looked at her father for a long time, perhaps finally recognizing him, and cried out, "Father." 2 streams of tears ran down her pale face as she tentatively threw herself into his arms. The whole family looked at her and wept. Master Wen didn't know me. With dozens of servants in the house and his busy schedule, how could he remember us? Madame Wen was not yet 40, but her hair was completely white, making her look like a 60-year-old woman. But she still recognized me. "You are the maid Rosalind." Her eyes were dull and she spoke with difficulty. "Mother, she is my sister Rosalind," Pearl replied, holding my hand. "Master, madam, please forgive this servant. I didn't dare let the second miss use her real name. Fearing the officials might find her one day, I had to have her take my surname and gave her the name Pearl." "Rosalind, what crime have you committed?" The entire Wen family was arrested, leaving only her behind. It all happened so suddenly, we couldn't even arrange a safe place for our child. If not for you, I don't know if she would still be alive to stand here today. "This old man cannot thank you enough," Master Wen said. "Who would have thought? The Wen family has been imprisoned for a year, and our own eldest daughter, Yu Niang, has not visited even once. The only one who comes to see us is a former maid from the estate. Madam already returned your deed of sale. You are no longer a servant of this household. What is wrong with being Pearl's older sister? If there is a day the Wen family sees the sun again, Rosalind will be a daughter of this house." I observed Master Wen's dignified spirit. Perhaps there was still a chance for this case to be overturned. I was happy for Pearl. I didn't want to be a miss of any house. I just wanted to go back to my village to see my mother, brother and sister. Continuing as a boatwoman on the Bianjing River was also fine. "Master, madam, please don't blame the eldest miss. One day, I took Pearl to the Su family, but we couldn't see her. I heard she had just given birth and was in confinement. The Su family, afraid of upsetting her, never told her the truth. The mistress of the Su family sent someone to find me, telling me, for the eldest miss's own good, to never bring Pearl to their door again." A few days later, the Su family moved to the eastern capital. Even if the eldest miss wanted to visit, the mountains are high and the rivers long. She also has a child now. How could she return? There was something I didn't say. I had heard that after eldest Miss Yu Niang heard about the Wen family, she cried until she fainted. Her husband took advantage of her unconscious state to put her on the boat. They are all just ordinary people. In times like these, prioritizing self-preservation. What's wrong with that? After a few more words, the allotted time was up. I tried to lead Pearl away, but she cried, wanting to take the whole family with her. It took much persuasion to get her out. Then she started crying again, asking why she didn't see her eldest brother. The legend of the first master, Caspian, was everywhere in the manor. Not only was he born exceptionally brilliant, but at 20, he had achieved the triple first in the examinations. He was the most favored disciple of Grand Scholar Song. The future was his for the taking. I didn't know about all that, but his appearance was indeed remarkable. After all, his mother was a rare beauty. A person, life or death unknown, had simply vanished. Master Wen kept his mouth shut, and I knew I couldn't ask further. I took Pearl back to our home. We rented a courtyard on East Street with another family. Pearl and I took the 2 rooms on the east side. One for living, one as a kitchen. A family of 4 lived in the 3 rooms on the west side. The man was a peddler named He, a 6-foot-tall man with a silver tongue. His wife, Mistress He, didn't talk much, but she was an incredibly kind person. She was skilled with her hands and would embroider handkerchiefs and pouches in her spare time for her husband to sell. I could sew clothes and shoes, but I couldn't embroider, so I had Pearl learn from her. Any leftover fish or shrimp from my sales always ended up in Pearl's stomach or in those of her 2 children. Today was no different from any other day, except the Bianjing River had frozen over, and my business had to stop. I had regular customers who liked my snacks, so I made them at home and delivered them. When I returned home for dinner, Pearl had already fallen asleep. Seeing her asleep, I used my shoe sole to snuff out the oil lamp. I lit the charcoal in the basin, but the smoke was thick, so I opened the window a crack. I would put the fire out before sleeping, wait for the air to clear, and only then dare to close the window. I was 15 now, old enough to be considered a young woman anywhere. Making a living on the Bianjing River wasn't as easy as it looked. Others were occasionally harassed. For a girl like me with a younger sister, it was even harder. But the river had its own rules. Once the protection fee was paid, someone would naturally watch over you. I wasn't afraid of hard work, I was only afraid of trouble. When the knock came, I startled. After all, Per and I were all alone in Bianjing. Who could be looking for us this late at night? Who is it? I called out loudly. I am surnamed Wen, a low, deep, and pleasant male voice replied from outside. Surnamed Wen. I didn't think much of it, put on my coat, and got out of bed. The man outside turned sideways to enter, and I quickly closed the door. He turned his back to me and stood by the bed, looking at Pearl. The small room only had a curtain dividing the space. Inside was the sleeping area, outside was the living area. He had pulled the curtain aside. I could see he was tall, wearing a black cloak, his hair fastened with a jade clasp. I vaguely guessed who he was but didn't dare ask, waiting for him to finish looking. I added firewood to the basin, boiled a pot of hot water, and poured him a cup of tea. This was the tea I sold to customers on the boat. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad either. When he drew the curtain and stepped out, the oil lamp was dim, but I could still see him clearly. People in the manor used to say he was born exceptionally brilliant. I never knew what that meant, but seeing him today, I understood. He looked very much like Madame Wen, only his eyebrows were longer. He had natural peach blossom eyes, alluring even without a smile, a straight nose, lips that weren't too thin, and a sharp jawline. Looking closely, I saw a black mole beneath his lip. Yet his aura was cold and sensual. The limited words I knew for handsome men were all insufficient to describe him. Crucially, his skin was also very fair. Still wearing his cloak, he sat down and accepted the tea I poured. His hands were beautiful too. A truly beautiful person has no flaws. His pupils were jet black, and when he looked at people, they were profoundly deep, which was intimidating. I looked at his attire. It was not that of a destitute person. The white robe beneath his cloak was made of brocade. Every inch of it was pure gold. If he wasn't poor, then why hadn't he saved the rest of the Wen family? The court's affairs were murky. I didn't dare ask much, nor did I want to. I just stood aside, waiting for him to speak. Not rushed, not impatient. You have some courage. No wonder you were able to protect Huangniang so well. His voice was low and cold. I didn't dare look at him much, just kept my head down and said nothing. Take this. Tomorrow, find a way out of the city and deliver it to Abbot Fa Hai of Jiming Temple. This matter carries great consequences. You must be careful. If I had any other choice, I would not have come to you. I hadn't wanted to accept. But when I heard him say he had no other choice, his voice tinged with urgency and helplessness, I finally gritted my teeth and took it. The object, wrapped in cloth, felt like a thin book. It was still warm with his body heat. Master, take care of yourself. The old and young of the Wen family are still in prison, waiting for you. He stood up to leave. Finally, I couldn't help saying that, for Pearl's sake, for the Wen family's sake. He nodded, suddenly breaking into a dazzling smile, like the sun breaking through clouds. Aren't you afraid the Wen family and I are all bad people? I only know that the Wen family treated me well. That is enough. If not for the Wen family, I don't know what state I would be in today. He nodded, turned sideways and left. Jiming Temple was no ordinary temple. It only opened its gates twice a month, on the 1st and the 15th. Tomorrow was neither of those. Just getting in the door would be difficult, let alone meeting the abbot. Early the next morning, I entrusted Pearl to Mistress He and went up Jilong Mountain. Though it was called a mountain, it wasn't treacherous. I was used to physical labor, so the walk wasn't difficult. At the temple gate, the main entrance was tightly shut. I could hear the sound of chanting and wooden fish from within. I knocked several times before a young novice monk, Mingjing, came out. He looked to be only 5 or 6 years old, at an adorable age, with fair skin. Seeing me, he raised a hand in a clumsy but formal salute. Female patron, if you wish to offer incense, please return on the 15th. He was so cute I couldn't help but want to rub his head, but I was afraid it was taboo. I took 2 pine nut candies from my pouch and offered them to him. I usually use these to coax Pearl. He pressed his lips together, hesitating, refusing to take them. I grabbed his hand and placed them in his palm. I'm not here for incense or prayers. Please go tell the abbot that his long-lost daughter has come to find him. I knew lying was wrong, but what choice did I have? If I hadn't overheard a rumor on the boats, I never would have thought of such a method. Abbot Fahui, before he became a monk, was the son of the late emperor. The current emperor had to call him little royal uncle. Years ago, during the rebellion of the 5 princes, the abbot was ordered by the emperor to quell the revolt. The rebel prince, Prince Huai, captured the abbot's family and threatened to kill them unless he withdrew his troops. The abbot's wife, fearing he would be controlled, led the children and servants of the household in setting fire to the mansion. When the abbot returned victorious, all that remained were over 100 charred bodies, burned beyond recognition. It was rumored that a nanny had escaped with the young princess, but though they searched for years, they were never found. Heartbroken, the abbot renounced the world and became a monk at Jiming Temple. If that princess were still alive, she would be about 15 or 16 now. The little novice, Mingjing, naturally didn't know the abbot's past, but he went inside to report. Since I had been bold enough to come this far, I no longer felt afraid. As for impersonating the princess, I'd heard many people had brought children to the mansion back then, claiming to be her. Even though they were all false, none were beheaded. Now that the prince was an abbot, he was even less likely to commit such a sin. Before long, a chubby monk walked out. His belly was round, his nose large with a red tip, and he had 2 fleshy mounds on his cheeks. On anyone else, this might look fierce, but on him it only appeared friendly and endearing. He looked me up and down, smiled and asked, "Female patron, how can you be so certain you are our abbot's daughter?" I wasn't her, so of course I couldn't be certain. Guessed. If the rumors are true, my story matches. As for whether it's real or not, only the abbot himself would know. Whether I am his daughter or not, only he can tell. By treating the false as real, at least I can meet him. The chubby monk tilted his head, looking at the little novice Mingjing's puffed-up cheeks. He told Mingjing to hold out his hand. Mingjing, clearly too naive, obediently stretched it out. The chubby monk's fat fingers pinched him, grabbed the remaining candy, and popped it into his own mouth. He turned, waddling away with his belly sticking out. The little novice's eyes went wide. I patted his small shoulder sympathetically. "What's your name?" "Mingjing," he pouted, looking like he was about to cry. "Mingjing, listen to your big sister Rosalind. Next time your master is fast asleep, go scratch on his door. He steals your food, so you ruin his dreams. If that doesn't work before you eat, spit twice on your food. Then see if he still eats it. This time we'll let him get away with it. Next time I come, I'll definitely bring more candy for you." I squatted down to console him. Mingjing had probably never heard such wicked advice in his life. He was momentarily stunned, just staring at me with his round eyes. His master returned quickly and led me inside. Mingjing followed beside me, his little face hesitant, wanting to speak but holding back. I shot him a proud smile. He probably thought I was brilliant. Abbot Fa Hui had just finished explaining the scriptures and was waiting for me under the Bodhi tree in the back courtyard. It was cold winter, yet this tree alone was lush and green. If not for his shaven head and monk's robes, Who would have thought he was a monk? His features were truly too handsome and refined. He had been to battle, yet he carried no trace of bloodlust. He seemed gentle and wise, and his age was indiscernible. Everyone else had withdrawn. He stood under the tree, fingering his prayer beads, gazing into the distance like a figure in a painting. This common woman is guilty, please forgive me, Abbot. Today's lie was a last resort. I bowed deeply, confessing my deceit. He seemed accustomed to disappointment, as his expression didn't change. I took the bundle from my shoulder and handed it to him. He opened it, glanced inside, and closed it again. What crime have you committed? A young lady with courage and cunning is rare indeed. Did Ruchu say anything else? His voice was clear and pleasant, measured and calm, soothing to hear. No. Ruchu was likely the courtesy name of the first master Caspian. He has sought me out. It seems he is truly in difficulty. If anything happens to him in the future, you may come find me anytime. Female patron, what is your name and occupation? Rosalind Chen. I am a boatwoman, selling wine on the Bianjing River. A good young woman. You may go. Several months passed after that meeting. The ice on the Bianjing River melted, and my business improved. It was rumored that the eldest princess would be passing by boat on the 3rd day of the 3rd month. Pearl insisted on going to sea. My boat business had to stop for the day, so I took her. The eldest princess was the current emperor's biological sister. Their father had doted on her, marrying her into the wealthy Bianjing and even granting her Bianjing as her fiefdom. There were many rumors about the eldest princess. It was said her husband kept a mistress, so she had him castrated. Afterward, she herself kept many handsome male consorts, living a life of pleasure. Anyone who caught her eye could not escape. Because of this, in Bianjing, you rarely heard of any handsome young masters. They were all sent to distant academies as soon as they came of age. They seldom returned home unless necessary, unless they intended to offer themselves up to her. There were many rumors about the princess, and no one knew if they were true or false. But it was said that even the current emperor had to yield to her. Her power was evident. We went early, so naturally we got the best spot on the bridge. A princess's procession was, of course, a grand affair. There were 3 flower boats alone, each 3 stories high. The eldest princess adored white silk. You only needed to see which boat was most shrouded in white to know she was there. That's the one in the middle. Pearl observed intently, chattering away without a care in the world. Aside from the palace maids and eunuchs, most of the people on the boat were handsome young men, all in various states of dress. It seemed the rumors about her keeping male consorts were not baseless, but the princess herself was nowhere to be seen. Just as the flower boat drew nearer, a gust of wind blew, lifting the white silk veil. Eldest brother. That's my eldest brother. Pearl pointed at the boat. I was horrified and quickly covered her mouth. By the time I turned back to look, the billowing silk was already falling, but not before several people had gasped at the sight. Even with just a glance, he was unmistakable in a crowd. The princess was dressed in a white gauze robe, her long legs barely visible. A flower was painted on her forehead, and her kohl-lined eyes and slightly parted red lips were clearly visible. And he was right beneath her, his chest exposed. I could even see his furrowed brows and long, trembling eyelashes. The princess tried to touch his lips, but he turned his head to avoid her. In that exact moment, he opened his eyes. We looked at each other, 4 eyes meeting. The moment seemed to stretch on forever, yet it was fleetingly short. Long enough for me to see the shame and fury in his eyes. Short enough that I couldn't find the small mole by his lip. He was a distinguished Zhuangyuan, the top scholar, yet he was forced to submit himself to the eldest princess. This was probably more unbearable for him than death. The so-called integrity of a scholar, better to die in glory than live in shame. The man I saw today and the man from that night were 2 completely different people. For him to endure this humiliation, he must have something more important than his own life to accomplish. I believed him, I thought. The days turned, but I couldn't forget that look we shared. Pearl was now a young lady. She had forgotten almost all the characters she had learned. I originally wanted to take her to Gemming Temple to be taught by the abbot, but I was afraid someone hiding in the shadows might discover her. If the first master, Caspian, was truly exposed, I feared death would be his only path. The eldest princess had opened an academy specifically for teaching young women. I enrolled Pearl along with Mistress He's young daughter. Although Pearl was simple-minded, her memory was excellent. Whatever she learned that day, she could recite and write down perfectly upon returning home. I learned along with her. Gradually, I could read simple books. It was only then I realized that it's true one must read to understand etiquette. There were many things in books I had never considered, nor could I have. Within books, one finds houses of gold, within books, one finds faces like Jade. That too was real. On a hot afternoon in the 5th month, I took Pearl to the prison, bringing homemade zongzi, food, and wine. Pearl and I had bought fan paper, painted on it, and made fans. We also brought mugwort and colorful threads. They seemed to be doing slightly better than our last visit. Madame Wen's voice was no longer strained when she spoke. I heard the two young masters were using the dirt floor as paper and tree branches as brushes, studying diligently every day. Even the concubine wasn't crying anymore. It seemed there was still hope for the Wen family. I used the mugwort to smoke out the jail cell and hung the remaining bundle on the door. Pearl tied the colored threads for them, and then we laid out the food. On the way here, I had repeatedly warned Pearl not to speak about seeing her eldest brother that day. If outsiders found out, her eldest brother could be in mortal danger. She asked several times if she could tell her father and mother. I shook my head several times. She understood the gravity of the situation and didn't mention it again. It wasn't that I was afraid the eldest princess would discover his identity. She must have investigated his entire ancestry before keeping him. It was more likely she knew his background and wanted to humiliate him precisely because of it. I was afraid that his father and mother, unaware of the situation, would be so overwhelmed with grief upon hearing of their son's plight that they might do something drastic. He had subjected himself to such degradation. One of the reasons, surely, was to save his family's lives. If he knew his family had died of grief because of him, I don't know what he would do. Rosalind took me to the academy. I can read many books now. I wrote the characters on this fan. Father, look, isn't my writing beautiful? Pearl clung to her father's arm, cooing. She didn't seem simple-minded at all in that moment. I had always felt that Pearl wasn't truly ill. She just thought a bit slower, was a bit more childlike than others. Her father carefully examined the fan, nodding as he looked, stroking his long beard. He praised her endlessly. My daughter is so promising, she can write such beautiful characters. It seems your second and third brothers must work even harder now. I liked the Wen family, in part because of Master Wen's attitude toward his daughters. He was stricter with his sons but gentle with his daughters, his eyes filled with equal love, never favoring one over the other. The children he raised were all generous, hearted and not overly dogmatic. Second brother, third brother, did you hear that? If you don't work hard, your little sister will surpass you. Pearl tossed her chin proudly. This is all thanks to your sister Rosalind. It's not easy for her to raise you, and she even sends you to school. In the future, you must remember her kindness. Her mother, Auntie Wen, tapped her on the forehead. My sister Rosalind is, of course, the best sister in the world. And I am her dearest little sister. Mother, look at the new undergarments Rosalind sewed for everyone. They're all made of fine cotton. She washed them clean, dried them in the sun, and kneaded them soft by hand before sewing. But I can help her sew now. Pearl opened the bundle and took out the undergarments. Xianxia, one of the girls sold to Bianjing with me, was now a concubine in a wealthy house. I heard she was sending someone back to her hometown to fetch her things. I found her and gave her the clothes I had made for my parents and siblings over the years, along with 3 taels of silver, to take back. A few days ago, the person returned with a letter. It was from my father, written by someone in the city. Ever since I sold myself for 2 taels of silver, my grandparents had caused a commotion, demanding to divide the family assets. Those 2 taels were divided per person. My parents only received 600 copper coins. The house was built by my grandparents, so naturally, my parents got no share. My father gritted his teeth and took my mother, brother, and sister to the county seat. He had some strength, so he and my brother worked as assistants in a grain shop. My mother took my sister and did laundry for others. Although they didn't earn much, they managed to rent a house in the city and were living adequately. Now, with the 30-something taels I sent back, plus their savings, they could return to the village, buy land, build a house, and even arrange a marriage for my brother. The Wen family was like a second life for me. If not for the master and madam's compassion in returning my contract, who knows if I would be alive or dead today. I knew how to treat my own parents, so I knew how to treat them. It was just a set of undergarments. What did that count for? When the Wen family faced disaster, all our former close friends and relatives stepped back. Not one person spoke up. Only Rosalind treated our family with sincerity. Master, If we survive this, let's have our Suur marry her. This is what they call true character revealed in adversity. Where else could we find a young woman with such loyalty and righteousness? Madam Wen stroked my head. At the time, I didn't know which Sun Suur was, but I felt I was unworthy of any of them. They were all gentlemen who studied the classics. If the Wen family was pardoned, they would surely return to their official paths. They should marry young women from families of equal standing. How could I dare to dream of such a thing? Madam, you absolutely must not. What Rosalind has done is nothing compared to what the master and madam did for me. If you hadn't returned my contract, Rosalind doesn't know if she'd be alive or dead. I do these things from the bottom of my heart. If you can walk out of this prison, the young masters of this house will surely become officials. How can they marry a wife who was once a servant? If Madam truly wishes to thank me, just treat me as you treat Pearl. That is enough. I remain kneeling. The future is long. This old man only fears that the Wen family will delay your future. Alright, let's not talk about this. Pearl, pour your father some wine. I soon forgot about what was said that day. By the time it was mentioned again, the circumstances were entirely different. The 5th month is the poisonous month. If there was no business, I wouldn't go out at night. I closed up early, coaxed Pearl to sleep, and opened my chest to count my savings. If the Wen family was released, it would be best if Master Wen could resume his post. But what if he couldn't? Where would they live? What would they eat? Could the two young masters still afford to study? And what would happen to the first master, Caspian? I dared not think about it. I couldn't afford to buy a house, only rent a larger one. But the silver I had wasn't even enough for that. Perhaps I should think of another trade. This small income from the boat, I didn't know how many years it would take to support 2 scholars. I rested my head on my arms, slumped over the table, and fell asleep. When I woke up, I didn't know when he had arrived. He was sitting across from me. My arm was numb, and as I moved it, it felt like thousands of ants were biting me, painful and itchy. I grimaced for a long time before it felt normal again. He just watched me silently, saying nothing. He smelled of realgar wine. He was wearing a white robe, its sleeves long. The collar was pulled open an inch, revealing much of his chest. His hair was disheveled, his clothes in disarray. Perhaps he had drunk too much. The corners of his eyes were red, his eyes glistening. He looked just like a spirit that feeds on human souls. No wonder the eldest princess wanted to take him. I was 16, not old, not young, just at the age for marriage, but I had never truly interacted with a man. My first close contact was with this supreme specimen. It was only natural that my face reddened and my heart pounded. In truth, my skin had thickened over the years. On the boat, what kind of customers had I not met? Some loved to tell bawdy jokes. I went from blushing to eventually hearing them as if they were nothing. But against his thick-skinned ness, my own was momentarily useless. Why has the first master come today? I licked my lips, smiling awkwardly. Do you have any colored threads? Tie one for me. He rubbed his temples, half awake, half dreaming. I knew better than to argue with a drunkard. I wouldn't say something tactless like, "Don't you know what day it is? The Dragon Boat Festival was ages ago." I found one in my sewing basket. He extended a pale wrist, waiting. I tied it for him. He raised his arm to look. The wide sleeve slid down, revealing half his forearm. On his pale skin, the muscles were defined, but it was covered in startling wounds, some new, some old. The new ones were still oozing blood, the old ones had faded to faint white scars. I gasped, covering my mouth to keep from screaming. He saw my expression and just smiled faintly. What? Scared. He then reached up and pulled his collar open. The white robe was bunched up around his waist and abdomen. There wasn't an unblemished spot on his body. I stared wide-eyed at the various wounds on his pale skin, a sharp pain lancing through me. Back then, I was still young and didn't know what I was horrified or pained by. Do you know what I do every day? Do you know what a male consort is? Every day, I drink medicine and knee for that woman, begging for her favor, letting her do whatever she wants, feeling no pain. Ha! So what if I'm the Zhuangyuan? So what if I'm a talent? I lost my integrity long ago. I'm just a corpse that even I despise. If not for... He must have been truly drunk, still bothered that Pearl and I had seen him that day. Anyone else would be fine, but Pearl was his sister. He was the brilliant eldest brother in her heart. Yet she had seen him at his most wretched. How could he face her? I searched for wound medicine and brought a basin of warm water. The injuries on his body included bites, scratches, and whip marks. Some I couldn't even identify. I was terrified. My hands didn't dare use force, afraid of hurting him. I could only bite my lip and dab the medicine on, carefully, meticulously. He wasn't as frail as he looked, muscles were well defined and firm. Oh. He seemed to be in pain, his muscles tensing. Gradually, I calmed down. I told him about the prison visit earlier that day. First Master, you must have something important you must do. You have protected your family's lives. As for everything else, I will take care of it. I will look after them properly. The simplest thing in this world is death. A rope, a knife, even biting one's tongue. But living, that is what requires courage. A gentleman's integrity is in his righteousness, his magnanimity, his grace. But in times of hardship, when the biting cold chills the bones, the choices one makes under pressure, that is also integrity. Since you have made your choice, why must you harm yourself like this? You only need to know that the people you love will never, ever abandon you. Perhaps this was the benefit of reading. I could even speak such timely and appropriate words. He closed his eyes, half reclining in the chair, looking as if he were asleep. The wounds on his abdomen were worse than elsewhere. His waist was very slim. I don't know why, but I suddenly remembered my mother telling me that a man must look sturdy. A waist too small couldn't even hold his own wife, let alone continue the family line or support a family. Thinking back on it now, it was amusing. Though his waist was slim, it looked powerful. It's done. It's useless, really. In a few days, it will just be like this again. A waste of medicine. He sat up straight. I helped him put his robe back on. Take good care of yourself. No matter what, you must protect yourself. How am I supposed to protect myself? This is the greatest compromise I can make. If you tell me to wag my tail and beg like the others, I would truly rather die, he said angrily. I was speechless. True, it was easy to talk. How had he convinced himself to become the eldest princess's consort? How had he gritted his teeth and endured until now? He would rather suffer physical pain than lose the last shred of his dignity. I'm hungry. Make me something to eat. Is it alright to be back so late? She gave me permission today, told me to go visit my family. What family do I have left? This is the only place I can come. I had just visited the prison, so I wasn't going to the boat tomorrow. There was no food in the house, only 2 crucian carp swimming in the water basin. I caught one, prepared it, and steamed it. He took the small stool Pearl usually sat on and fed the fire at the kitchen entrance, watching me cook. I reheated the leftover congee in the pot. The fish was quick to steam. I ladled out some marinated shrimp and crab, and sliced some cured meat for a stir-fry. None of the portions were large. He wasn't picky and ate everything clean. When I was washing the dishes, he stood beside me, watching. He was very tall, and the oil lamp cast a long shadow on the wall. I want to start another business. When Master and Madam Wen are released, if they cannot resume their posts, I want to rent a larger courtyard. The 2 young masters will still need to study. Although the boat business is good, it earns too little. I'm afraid it won't be enough to support us, let alone anything else. I told him my thoughts. He lowered his eyes, the shadow beneath them dark. Have you thought about me? He asked suddenly. Of course I have. I don't know what you are doing, but I know you cannot escape your connection with the eldest princess. The affairs of the royal family are mysterious. If something happens, who can say what's right or wrong? I just hope you can escape safely. That would be best. I didn't dare think too much. He curled his lip, a smile that wasn't a smile. What other trade do you want to do? This year's business was good. Excluding the money for the prison, daily expenses, and the 30 taels for my parents, I have 60 taels and 57 copper coins left. This bit of money isn't even enough to rent the most remote shop in Bianjing. I haven't decided what to do yet. I won't be going to the boat for the next few days. I'll look around first and see if there are better options. Silver is a good thing. Using silver to make silver is easy, but using human labor to make silver, it's not just about working hard. I will think of a way for the money. Don't. If you had silver, you would have brought it out long ago. Why wait until today? You just need to protect yourself. Let me think. There must be a way. He looked at me with that smile. I was unsettled by his gaze and frowned back at him. He reached out a pale finger and poked my forehead, nearly knocking me over. I clutched my forehead, blushing, and glared at him. He actually laughed, rosy lips, white teeth. It was devastatingly beautiful. I found Xianxia and asked to borrow 100 taels of silver. It was her entire savings. I told her I would pay her back 130 taels in half a year. When I was selling fish, I met an uncle who ran a boat. His wife was also a boatwoman, like me. Their boat specialized in traveling to the East Sea, Donghai, to purchase pearls, which they then transported to the capital to sell. I heard it was a trade where one investment yielded 10 times the profit. I begged the uncle, gave him 2 taels of silver, and treated him to a meal. I entrusted Pearl to Mistress He. Carrying over 100 taels of silver, I disguised myself as a young wife visiting relatives and followed their boat to the East Sea. There were many other passengers on the boat who had paid for passage, men and women, old and young. I blended in and wasn't too conspicuous. This trip took 2 months. By the time I returned, it was the beginning of the 8th month. The hottest days had passed. The sea breeze had tanned me dark, and Pearl had grown much taller. After all was said and done, and after repaying Xianxia, I had over 600 taels of silver left. Going to sea relied on luck. If the heavens didn't allow it, the boat could capsize, and my life would be forfeit. This wasn't a long-term plan. I rented a shop and 3 rooms in the back courtyard on East Street. Pearl and I had a place of our own. This street had many tea houses, breakfast stalls, and late-night snack shops. It was the perfect place for me to sell huntons. The shop I rented had been a restaurant. I just needed to scrub the grease off the tables and stove. Pearl had school every day and could only help after she finished. Every 7 or 8 days, I would clean and whitewash the walls. I replaced the cloth curtain at the door with a bamboo one and placed a few pots of blooming chrysanthemums on the windowsill. There were only 4 tables. If I could fill them for all 3 meals, I could earn 3 taels of silver a day. A few days before opening, I was worrying about the shop sign when the first master, Caspian, arrived late at night. It had been about 3 months since we last met. He looked the same, yet not the same. I rarely saw him, so I couldn't quite say what was different. He was just wearing a black robe, the belt inlaid with jade, which made his waist look impossibly small. A woman like you is truly bold. Sneaking off on a boat to the sea. The weather on the sea is treacherous, yet you dared to go. If that boat had capsized, your little life would be gone. Didn't I say I would think of a way for the money? He frowned, seemingly furious. I knew my place. Seeing him angry, I bowed my head and didn't provoke him further. What? Nothing to say now. Look at yourself. You were already ugly, but at least your skin was fair. Now look, you're as black as charcoal. Who would dare marry you now? Why was this suddenly a personal attack? That's no concern of yours, master. My father already arranged a marriage for me. After the Wen family is safe, I will return to my village and marry him. I replied stiffly. My family was so poor we couldn't even open the pot. Who could I possibly be engaged to? If there really was someone, my grandparents would have married me off as a child bride long ago. I clearly saw his eyebrows twitch, his dark eyes staring at me. I didn't flinch. This was a matter of dignity. Fine, very good. Since you're engaged, do as you please. Just protect that little life of yours. He threw down a silver banknote and turned to leave. I anxiously grabbed his sleeve. You're not eating. I'll make you a bowl of seafood huntons. I guarantee they're fresh. I coaxed him with a teasing smile. He stood there for a long time before reluctantly turning back to sit down. How could he possibly tolerate this temper in the princess's residence? I remembered the wounds covering his body. Why did I have to provoke him? He was already suffering enough. When he came here, he should be able to come and go happily. Don't be angry. Look, the shop is about to open. I won't run around recklessly anymore. It's just, the shop still doesn't have a sign. Since this is our venture, shouldn't you put in some effort? I brought out a brush, ink and paper. Have you thought of a name? He picked up the brush and turned to ask me. Seafood huntons. The customers who come here are all common folk. This way, they'll know at a glance. Everyone will know my huntons are fresh. He smiled, rolled up his sleeves, and held the brush. His stroke was fluid. I would see him in many different lights later, but only tonight. As he rolled up his sleeves and held the brush, his back straight, casting a quiet silhouette in the dim lamplight. This version of him was the most beautiful. A strong, elegant script. This was his true self. He seemed to possess boundless, vigorous life, both confident and perfect. I just stared, mesmerized. Is it all right? He turned his head and asked. His eyes seemed to capture a falling star. It's beautiful. I was captivated. Both the person and the characters. Everything is strangely beautiful. He pressed his lips together, smiling. I only learned later that he was just 22 years old that year. He ate 2 bowls of huntons. As he was leaving, I handed the banknote back to him, telling him to return it to wherever he got it. No matter the relationship, once money was involved, the feelings would never be as pure. He eventually took the banknote back, saying, "If you were a man, would you still return it?" Unfortunately, I am a woman. What I can do is limited to this. The Hunton shop's business got better and better. I couldn't handle it all myself, so I hired Mistress He to help cook. At the end of the year, counting the silver, I felt a new strength in my heart. Day after day, in the year I turned 19, the eldest princess returned to the capital. I heard she would be staying for a while and might not return. The princess also took him with her. In truth, he didn't visit often, perhaps once every month or few months, always late at night, staying only long enough to eat a bowl of food. We barely exchanged a few words, but I still found myself waiting for him, missing him. People often say beauty ruins nations and men, but the beautiful person himself is unaware. In the 12th month, His Majesty made a vow. Although I didn't know what it was, the emperor was a devout Taoist, brewing elixirs daily, seeking immortality. Everyone knew this, but a vow from the emperor was a good thing. It meant a general amnesty for the realm. The Wen family happened to be included. Only the concubine. She caught a severe cold this year and didn't pull through. Just like that, she was gone. I rented another courtyard, 6 rooms in total, and had it all arranged long ago. Except for his absence, this year was actually very good. Pearl was now a young lady of 14, graceful and lovely, a truly beautiful flower. Her simple-mindedness seemed to have faded. She spoke and acted with clear order. She was just a bit stubborn at times. For instance, when I told her to move back home, she refused, no matter who tried to persuade her. I was already an old maiden, and she was a grown woman. She couldn't follow me around the shop every day. She was so beautiful. She should be at home, cultivating her temperament, learning the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting from her father. When her eldest brother returned, he could surely arrange an excellent marriage for her. I had no choice but to follow her and move into their home. I gave the shop's back courtyard to Mistress He's family to live in, rent-free. They could watch the shop and save money. 2 birds with 1 stone. I was a free person. To put it bluntly, I had no relation to the Wen family anymore. Living with Pearl was one thing, but moving into their home always felt awkward. However, Master and Madame Wen treated me exactly like their own daughter, no different from how they treated Pearl. The 2 young masters treated me with even more respect. Gradually, I adapted, calling them Uncle Wen and Auntie Wen, and calling the 2 masters second brother and third brother, just like Pearl did. He was gone for half a year without a single word. Uncle Wen seemed to have found a new hobby. He spent half the day teaching at the local school and the other half teaching his 2 sons at home. He was, after all, a proper Juran scholar. Pearl no longer needed to go to the academy. She stayed home with Auntie Wen, reading, writing, and doing needlework. She also had to clean the house, buy groceries, and cook. She could do everything now. If I prepared a generous dowry for her, what kind of husband would she marry? A high-status family might be difficult. But a wealthy, ordinary family was certainly not. I only hoped for one thing, that she could marry someone who would love her and protect her, allowing her to live a happy, carefree life. One evening, I returned home late. The atmosphere was heavy and tense. I didn't know what had happened. No one in the family would say clearly, only that Uncle Wen had gone to the private school in the morning and had locked himself in his room upon returning. He hadn't come out all day, not even to eat. In my heart, I vaguely understood. He had found out about the first master, Caspian. It was only a matter of time. I cooked huntons from the shop, served the others first, and then brought a bowl to him. His room had been converted into a study, and he was in there. I called out several times before he answered. I pushed the door open. The lamp in the study wasn't lit. Moonlight from the window cast a single, straight beam. I placed the tray on the table and found a flint to light the lamp. Having not seen him for just one day, Uncle Wen seemed to have aged immensely. His hair, already gray, seemed to have turned much whiter. His back was bent. He was no longer standing straight. Uncle Wen, have you heard about the first master? I placed the bowl in front of him and handed him the chopsticks. His hand trembled so much he couldn't hold them. Uncle, are you grieving his lost reputation, or are you pitying his suffering? My son has suffered too much. It was I who harmed him. Uncle Wen's tears streamed down. He grieved for his child more than for his reputation. Uncle, if you pity him, then don't say anything about harming him. He is already suffering enough. He didn't tell you all precisely because he was afraid that one day, when you found out, you would blame him, resent him, or be tormented by guilt. No matter how much he suffered, he gritted his teeth and endured. We should all, just as before, live our lives well. We are family. Why must we calculate these things? We must treat him no differently than usual, only then will he not feel anguish. I took a handkerchief and wiped his tears. But, with such a reputation, how will he marry a wife and have children in the future? Uncle, he is an excellent man. A better wife would naturally be waiting for him. You don't need to worry. Just eat your fill, nourish your spirit, and wait to hold your plump grandchildren. He is so good, like the bright moon in the sky. His eyes even twinkle with starlight. What good woman in this world would not be won over by him? He has suffered so much. If the heavens still cherish him, they will give him a wife who loves him, protects him, and treats him with all her heart. In the 7th month, I left the shop to Mistress He and Auntie Wen and took a carriage with Xianxia's belongings back to my hometown. I had left home at 12, 7 years had passed. I didn't know if I had changed or if my home had. I had sent money back every year. My family had bought 40 mu of paddy fields and built a large tile-roofed house. My sister was married, my brother had taken a wife. My grandparents had passed away long ago. My 3 good-for-nothing uncles had all married and were living comfortably. My family felt so distant and I was a stranger to them. The wife my brother married was clever, perhaps too clever. She was always asking me how much I earned a month, how much the dress I was wearing cost. I didn't have the patience to talk to her, just biting my tongue. In her words, I was now a concubine. My father, having played the old master for 2 years, never once asked if his daughter was living well. He only said, "Coax your mistress, serve your master well. If you earn more silver, remember to bring more home. I still have to save money for my grandson's wedding." When my sister saw me, she just cried a river about being poor. My father had used the money to get wives for my 3 uncles but was reluctant to give her even 10 taels of silver, as if 10 taels were just rocks by the roadside, easily picked up. Silver is a good thing, but it is also not. It is too shiny, and it inadvertently illuminates the dark corners of the human heart. My mother had passed away a few years ago, but no one had told me. She had made me 2 pairs of shoes, which were kept in a cabinet. One pair was red, meant to urge me to marry. She had also wanted to make me a red outfit. The person who loved me most was gone so soon. No one could tell me clearly how she passed. Whether they didn't want to say or didn't dare to, it no longer mattered. She was gone. What was the use of clarifying? I only stayed for 3 days. I left 10 taels of silver and walked away, watching their disappointed faces, without turning back. I no longer had a home. I had nothing left to long for. Only when I knelt before my mother's grave did I dare to cry. I knew only my mother would pity me for the difficult road I had walked. At the beginning of the 8th month, I returned to Bianjing. The chrysanthemums in Bianjing were in full, glorious bloom. As soon as I opened the door, there was hot food waiting, someone waiting for me to come home. Even the blankets smelled of sunshine. See, my life on this earth was not in vain. Mother, look, someone loves me. I am living very well. If you can truly know, then rest in peace. In the next life, be a bird or a fish. If you want to fly, fly as far as you want. If you want to swim, swim wherever you wish. If you still want to be human, if I can marry a good man, then please, come and be my child. I will surely give you everything you ever wanted. I will cherish you, love you, and make you the happiest child in the world. Autumn passed, and winter came. There was a heavy snow in Henan. It was said countless livestock and people froze to death. His Majesty didn't think of disaster relief but instead built a Taoist temple. But every event has its turning point. On New Year's Eve, the eldest princess revolted, claiming His Majesty was an inept ruler unfit to be emperor. She wanted to follow the example of Empress Wu and become a ruling empress. She beheaded her own brother. The next day, she died in her own sleeping palace. The court officials, led by Grand Scholar Song, all supported the crown prince's ascension. Within a few days, the emperor of the Daking dynasty had changed. The common people didn't care who was emperor, as long as they could live well, they would acknowledge even a 3-year-old puppet on the throne. The crown prince was truly different from his unjustly killed father. Within a few days, he had properly arranged for disaster relief. Everyone in the court praised His Majesty's wisdom. The refugees outside the capital vanished in a single day. It was said that those who wanted to go home were given passage, and those who didn't were settled on the spot, given land, and even helped to build houses. I didn't understand the rest, but looking at this decisiveness, the new emperor was clearly no simple man. The spring wind in April was gentle, neither cold nor hot. I was delivering fish and shrimp at the back door when Pearl ran over, huffing and puffing. When I asked what was wrong, she just burst into tears, stammering incoherently. I thought something had happened at home and pulled her running back. But when we reached the house, there was just a crowd gathered at the door, watching the excitement. A carriage was parked at the entrance. Several tall horses were tied to the old pear tree. It took great effort to squeeze in. Inside, I saw the whole family standing in the courtyard. The house was small, no room could hold these dozen or so people. They had to bring chairs out to sit in the yard. The man seated in the center was pale and beardless, his hair graying. He wore a simple gray cloth robe. He looked much older than Uncle Wen. I knew he must be a palace eunuch. Since he was in plain clothes, he obviously didn't want to draw attention. I pulled Pearl over to Bo. Your Grace, we greet you. Our home is small, we have troubled you. His expression was incredibly kind, not at all the sharp, harsh look depicted in books. He personally helped me up. I was puzzled, but I turned and helped him sit back down. You are the girl, Rosalind. He actually knew my name. But at my age, calling me a girl was hardly appropriate. Yes, I am Rosalind Chen. I hear your seafood huntons are delicious. I wonder if this old man might have a taste today. He even knew about the huntons. I guessed he must know the first master Caspian. The seafood was just delivered this morning. It's still at the shop. Second brother, please go and get it. While you're there, ask Mistress He to cut 3 caddies of ribs. Third brother and Pearl, you will clean up the main hall for our guests. It's not right to sit in the courtyard. After all, they were people of status. It wasn't proper to have them eat in the yard, was it? The main hall was a bit more spacious. Normally, Uncle and Auntie Wen used the outer part as a living room, separated by a screen, with the bed on the inside. We could move the screen from my and Pearl's room, tidy up, and it would be presentable enough for a meal. The 10-some guards were quartered in second brother's and third brother's rooms. Pearl followed behind me, wiping her tears. Only after she had cried her fill did I ask her. What was wrong? She said, His Grace just said that in a few days we are to move to the capital. Eldest brother is arranging the rooms. Rosalind, are you coming? I knew this day would come sooner or later. I stroked her soft hair. How old is your sister Rosalind now? The only reason I haven't married all these years is to look after you. Now that your eldest brother wants to bring everyone to live with him, you should go happily. Your sister Rosalind has to marry Gudan from the village entrance. After I'm married, if you want to come back and stay with me, you can just come back. How far is the capital from Bianjing? Is this worth crying over? I coaxed her. If there really was a Gudan at the village entrance, that would be nice. At least I could marry him, and my heart wouldn't have these foolish hopes. And since they are foolish hopes, they are, by definition, delusions. You're lying, Rosalind. Where is this Gudan? Your mother clearly told me she wanted your eldest brother to marry you. If he marries you, you'll be my eldest sister-in-law. Then you have to come back to the capital with us. Only then did I learn that his name was Wen Su, and his courtesy name was Ru Chu. If I had agreed back then, I shook my head and smiled bitterly. Even if I had agreed, what then? The path of an official is already difficult. After what he experienced, it will be even harder. He should marry a wife who can support him. What can I give him? Besides, he doesn't treat me much differently than anyone else. Who says you're simple-minded? Look at you. Your words are perfectly reasonable. Your sister Rosalind and that Gudan were engaged as children. I only found out when I went home last year. He's still waiting to marry me. How can I disappoint him? You must never again repeat what your mother said in front of others. It will ruin your eldest brother's reputation. Do you, He's. She giggled for a long time. Can I go with you when you marry that Gudan guy? What are you talking about? Who marries a wife and takes in her little sister as a concubine? After I go home and get married, I will, of course, come back to Bianjing. The shop is my decision. You can stay as long as you want. I'll support you. Pearl was like the child I had raised. We had relied on each other for so many years. It was natural for her to be so attached to me. But the messenger was a palace eunuch, and judging by his high status, he was no ordinary person. For Pearl to follow the Wen family to the capital, that was what was best for her. Aside from the huntons, the rest were just simple, everyday dishes. After the meal, they had to return to the capital. The eunuch, however, wanted to speak with me privately. It was just him and me in the room. He sat, I stood, he looked at me, and I let him. Ru Chu and His Majesty are like martial brothers. When His Majesty was the crown prince, he was not favored. He was even exiled to Xianxia once. His Majesty studied at the Xianxia Academy. Besides Ru Chu, there was also Fei Yang, the young son of General Chun. The three of them became fast friends. Even after His Majesty was recalled to the palace, the three never stopped corresponding. Ruchu has the talent to govern a nation. Later, he achieved the triple first and entered the Hanlin Academy. The Wen family's disaster, the countless twits and turns daras, were all because of the former emperor. Ruchu took a great risk, while Fei Yang cultivated a strong military force at the border, all to bring about the His Majesty we have today. Their place in His Majesty's heart, how can others compare? Ruchu's future as an official is limitless. Grand Scholar Song asked His Majesty to grant a marriage, wanting to marry his youngest daughter to him. His Majesty asked for his opinion. He said that he still had a loyal servant at home who had cared for his young sister and was filial to his parents. She is now a young woman of 22. If he didn't marry her, wouldn't he be an ungrateful, disloyal, and unrighteous man? His Majesty sent me to ask you, besides marrying him, is there any other way to repay this debt of gratitude? A loyal servant, you see. In his heart I was just a servant, not even counted as a normal woman. His Majesty had already given me enough face. What else could I say? Naturally, we needed a happy ending for everyone. Your Grace worries too much. What I did does not even compare to what the Wen family did for me back then. How can it be called a debt? My father arranged a marriage for me when I was young. I went home last year, and he is still waiting to marry me. Pearl and I have relied on each other for years. I cannot bear to part with her. Now that the first master, Caspian, has returned to his official path, I have no more worries. After they return to the capital, I must go home to get married. Your Grace only needs to bring one sentence back to His Majesty. The Wen family owes Rosalind nothing. Rosalind has now repaid her debt to the Wen family. If the first master marries in the future, Rosalind would be honored to drink a cup of wedding wine. Elia had told so many times, I had to believe it myself. As if there really was a devoted Gudan at the village entrance, waiting faithfully for my return. I came from a humble background. I was lucky to meet the Wen family, as if a seventh sense had been opened. I understood the world's impermanence, and I knew what I wanted. I wanted to find someone who loved me, not just a man, but someone who could treat me with sincerity for a lifetime. A single, devoted love. If I couldn't have that, then what did it matter if I loved him deeply? If I could fall in love, what could I not let go of? You are a bright girl. You will live well wherever you go. In that case, I will relay your exact words to His Majesty. If, one day, you get married, and I happen to be free, I will definitely come personally to drink a cup of wedding wine. As long as your Grace is in good health, that day will surely come. I smiled and helped him out of the room. After they had all left, I returned to the shop. Business was busy. By the time I got home, it was the middle of the night. Auntie Wen was waiting for me by lamplight. Today, everyone had something they wanted to say to me, but I didn't want to talk. In the past, she must have been an elegant woman. In the spring, she would pick peach and pear blossoms, dry them, and save them for tea during the other 3 seasons. She brewed peach blossom tea. The pink liquid in the white porcelain cup was fragrant just to look at. Rosalind, in 10 days, we leave for the capital. You must come with us. I will say it again if you are willing. I will have Caspian marry you. We will truly be one family. I never expected her to say such things. I had always said the Wen family was good and I wasn't wrong. Her gray hair had recently been tended to. She had gained some weight and her complexion was fairer. But she looked much older than the elegant official's wife she once was. Auntie Wen, these past few years, he has been like Huanglian soaking in bitter water. He has finally earned his freedom. Let him do what he wants. Why must you force him? I held Auntie Wen's hand. My head bowed, unable to speak. If I said more, I wouldn't be able to hold back my tears. And I didn't want cry. Tears are the most useless thing in the world. You foolish child. In the end, the Wen family still owes you. From now on I am your biological mother, and Uncle Wen is your biological father. You must not sever this bond. Even if you only have time to come home for a short visit, that's enough, isn't it? I sat by the window all night. I don't know if it was the 15th or 16th. The moon was as round as a platter, emitting a clear, cold light that wasn't dim at all. It illuminated the darkness, but it itself was completely unaware. Starting the next day, the front of the house was flooded with carriages and horses. There wasn't even room to stand. I took Pearl to live at the shop. On the 5th day, second brother came to find us. He had a gentle, slow temperament. I had never seen him angry. But today, his expression was dark, and the circles under his eyes were shockingly large. Pearl brought him a bowl of huntons. He ate 3 bites and asked for another, as if he hadn't eaten in days. Rosalind, mother told me to call you home. She fell ill yesterday. The relatives who abandoned us in the past have been coming in waves. Yesterday, our maternal uncle's entire family came and berated mother. This morning, Yunyang returned. I don't know what she said to father and mother, but mother fainted from anger. They won't leave, they're just waiting at the house. Father tried to chase them off with a cane, and today his back is so sore he can't move. I told third brother to fetch a doctor, but the courtyard gate has been blocked and broken. Mother said this courtyard belongs to you and told you to come back and take charge. His tone was both helpless and furious. I had originally felt that, as an outsider, it wasn't my place to say anything. But I didn't want these shameless people to get their way. I hadn't planned on bringing Pearl, but she insisted on coming. The 3 of us hurried back. It took less than half an hour. I don't know if the 2 courtyard gates had been broken down or pushed in, but they were now lying at the alley entrance. A group of servants sat on top, cracking melon seeds and gossiping. It seemed the Wen family's relatives weren't poor, they could all afford servants. When the Wen family was in trouble, not one spoke up. Now, perhaps hearing the first master, Caspian, had a promising future, they didn't dare go to the capital, so they ran here to show their strength. The main hall was packed. Men, women, old and young, at least 20 people were sitting there. Uncle Wen was lying in second and third brother's room. A group of people stood on the floor, while a child lay on my and Pearl's bed. The eldest miss of the Wen family, Yunyang, was changing the child's diaper on our bed. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? Who let you into my and Rosalind's room? Pearl couldn't hold back. She rushed in and pulled Yunyang up, looking fierce. Although she didn't say it, she probably still remembered Yunyang. After all, this was her biological sister. Perhaps Yunyang truly had her difficulties back then, but in 8 years, had she really not found a few days to visit? She was no longer the eldest miss from my memory. Her hair was intricately styled, and she wore dazzling gold jewelry. Her figure had started to thicken, and the corners of her eyes and brows were sharp and unkind. She was long gone from the stunning young girl of the past. You are Qiong Niang. It's me, your eldest sister. You don't even know me. Has your simple-mindedness gotten worse? I'm changing your nephew's diaper. What are you pulling me for? She tried to turn back, but Pearl held her fast, her large, round eyes brimming with tears. I am Pearl. Whose eldest sister are you? You ignored your family's life and death. You didn't visit once in 8 years. Why are you here today? Why did you make father and mother so angry? Yunyang's body stiffened, her face suddenly flustered. Pearl. What? You are Qiong Niang, sister. I had my reasons all these years. Pearl didn't want to hear it and dragged her into the courtyard. The people in the room followed, eager to watch the commotion. The room was finally quiet. I told third brother to bring the doctor in to examine them. Pearl still wouldn't let go. Seeing the 2 were about to start fighting, I feared Pearl would be at a disadvantage. Pearl, on the verge of tears, finally let go and stood beside me, looking as pitiful as a little puppy. Those first few years had been so hard. We barely had enough to eat. I saved my own portions for her, raising her to be fair, skinned and soft. I couldn't bear to see her shed a single tear. Today, an outsider wanted to hit her. How could I endure it? I am in charge of this house now. If any of you have business, speak to me. I stroked Pearl's head. She looked even more aggrieved, pressing her lips together, tears streaming. Who are you? How dare you claim to be the head of this house? My nephew is a grand secretary. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? The woman who spoke was about 45, with a thick waist. She was probably from Auntie Wen's side of the family. A crowd began to chime in, the noise giving me a headache. Who do you think you are, acting so arrogantly in the Wen family home? Yunyang shouted. Back then, I was just a coarse workmaid. She naturally wouldn't remember me. First, I don't know any grand secretary. Second, I rented this courtyard. The lease is in my cabinet. For now, this courtyard belongs to the Chen family. I don't have relatives like you. Did you present a calling card when you came to my home? Did you get my permission? Since you didn't, can I go to the Yamen and report you for trespassing? Taking a step back, even if the Wen family is living with me now, whether you're here to visit or to try and profit, if you're talking about the Grand Secretary, first master of the Wen family, shouldn't you be at the Grand Secretary's residence in the capital? What's the use of coming here to bully his parents and siblings? Your information is so timely. Did you know when the Wen family was in trouble back then? I'm sure you all knew. Of course, Every family has its own difficulties. The Wen family can understand that. But in all these years, did any of the Wen family come knocking on your doors? People need face, just as trees need bark. Touch your own faces. Are they as thick as the bricks of the city wall? Maybe if we peeled them all off, we could raise the city wall by 100 meters. And you still dare to come here today. I've seen many types of shamelessness, but you're kind. This is truly a first. The Wen family might forgive what you did in the past. But what if they don't? Thankfully, the Wen family is well bred. If I were them, and I had power today, I would definitely take all these cold-blooded relatives who came to watch the spectacle back then and throw them in a wok of hot oil. Just to hear the sizzle. If not that, I'd at least throw them in the great prison for 3 to 5 years. Is there any family that hasn't done some dirty deeds? Finding 2 or 3. What's so hard about that? It's one thing for the children to be ignorant, but you, with beards long enough to reach your waists, almost buried in the yellow earth, you don't understand either. Isn't this the time to tuck your tails between your legs and be human? Who knows how many generations it will take for the Wen family to forget the past? You have to leave a path for your descendants, don't you? But instead, you mercilessly block your own path and the path of your descendants. I've only heard of repaying malice with kindness, never repaying kindness with malice. If I were you, I'd go home right now and burn incense every day, praying that the first master of the Wen family forgets. I'll just have to forget. I spoke until my mouth was dry. When I was young, I could argue in the village for an hour and not feel tired. Now that I was older, just saying these few words exhausted me. Where did you crawl from, girl? I am the first master's biological maternal uncle. You dare to insult the uncle's family? This was the man with the long beard I mentioned. It's precisely because you are his biological uncle that it's so hateful. The people about to be beheaded back then, wasn't that your own sister and brother-in-law? Weren't those your nephews? How could you be so heartless? You couldn't even visit the prison once. Back then you disregarded your own flesh and blood to protect yourself. Now, you have even less right to stand here and play the uncle. The first master is not the same man he was. If you still want to use family ties to threaten him, I'm afraid it won't work. He managed to get where he is today all by himself. Do you really think you can provoke him? Go home and drink some medicine to wake up. In an instant, 7 or 8/10 of the people in the courtyard had left. The few who remained had come with Yuniang. She was Wen Su's biological sister. This was their family's business. I didn't want to say any more. In short, a person like her, who was both shameless and felt herself to be invincible, was probably unbeatable. Just then, the doctor came out. I asked about Uncle Wen's injury. It was just a pulled muscle, 2 layers of ointment and 2 days of rest would be fine. Auntie Wen, however, was suffering from anger rising to her heart. She needed to take medicine to regulate it. Third brother went to get the prescription. The house was a complete mess. By the time Peril, second brother, and I finished cleaning, it was already dark. Yu Niang dismissed the people who came with her, and, holding her nursing son, firmly occupied my and Pearl's bed. We were having congee for dinner, now we had to buy steamed buns. She ate without any reservations. I had planned to go back to the shop, but I was afraid she would anger the 2 elders again. I prepared to squeeze onto the bed with Auntie Wen and Pearl. We set up a wooden plank in the study for third brother, with 2 layers of padding and a thick blanket. Second brother and Uncle Wen squeezed onto one bed. But before we could even sleep, after Yuniang settled her child, she came over and knelt there, with a thud on the floor, tears streaming as she called out, "Mother." Uncle Wen must have heard the noise. He braced his back and came over with second and third brother. I intended to leave, but second brother stopped me, telling me to sit on the bed. The whole family was there, some standing, some sitting. Only Yuniang was kneeling. Uncle Wen told second brother to bring her a stool, wanting her to sit. Uncle Wen leaned on third brother's shoulder as he sat. Pearl and I knelt on the bed, our outer robes still on. Auntie Wen was too weak to get up, lying with her eyes closed as 2 streams of tears flowed from their corners, a pitiful sight. Pearl took out a handkerchief to wipe Auntie Wen's tears, muttering, "Mother. The others are one thing." Rosalind dismissed them, so I don't need to say more. Yuniang, your mother gave birth to 3 sons in a row. When you were born, your mother treated you like a precious pearl, giving you the best of everything. Your 3 brothers, when they turned 12, were sent one by one to Xianxia to study. Because they are sons, they naturally couldn't be pampered. Apart from tuition, your mother and I only gave them 5 taels of silver a year. Yet, every time they came home, did they ever fail to bring you gifts? That was all from their own savings. But you said you wanted to learn the kin. A kin worth several hundred taels. We bought it the moment you liked it. Did your mother or I ever say a word against it? We hired a master to teach you. How much did that cost a year? Every season, you had to have new clothes and new jewelry. Outsiders all said you were knowledgeable and polite, but they didn't know you were arrogant and willful. By the time your mother and I realized it, it was too late. That year, your mother and I vetted so many men before settling on the secretary of the Central Secretariat for you. He agreed to the marriage because his younger brother and your second brother were classmates, and he felt your 3 brothers had good character. Not because you were so talented. Yet, because you found his appearance ugly, you stubbornly refused him, and in the end, you chose to tie your life to that Su family. His father and I passed the examinations in the same year. We were both 7th rank officials, but he spends his days in brothels. He has 7 or 8 concubines in his house alone. That Su boy, besides his face, what does he have? He's the same age as your first brother, but has only managed to pass the Xiukai exam after all these years. Your mother-in-law is famously muddle-headed. When you married him, didn't I tell you? You were already married. Your mother nearly emptied the house to fill your dowry. Even if you suffered, you had to live with your choice. When our family fell, everyone was arrested except for Chuang Niang. Your eldest brother wasn't imprisoned with us at the time. Your mother, thought he was dead. She cried until she nearly went blind. Only after we received word that he was alive did she get a little better. Your mother and I were worried sick about Chuang Niang, only 9 years old. We were afraid she had been sold off long ago. Your second and third brothers were beaten every day, subsisting on 2 meals of moldy steamed buns and watery congee. Have you ever eaten a moldy bun? Have you ever drunk watery congee? We all know you suffered in the Su family when we were imprisoned. No one blamed you. And you ask who she is. She is the savior of the entire Wen family. The first year, she brought Chuang Niang to visit us. She was just a young girl herself, afraid someone would capture Chuang Niang, so she changed her name to Pearl. She was as thin as a bamboo shoot, yet she raised Pearl to be fair and plump. She even sewed each of us a set of clothes, brought wine and food, and slipped money to the jailer, telling him to hire a doctor for your mother. If not for that, your mother have died of illness back then. For years, rain or shine, she never failed to provide us with food, clothing, and necessities, even remembering to bring pillowcases. Your eldest brother saved our lives, but she worried about our food and clothing, taking care of us for 6 full years. And you never even visited once. You didn't come before, and you shouldn't have come now. If you are here for the Su family, then today, I will answer on behalf of your first brother. Whether it's your father-in-law or your husband, the first master will recommend only one of them. See if your father-in-law wants a promotion or if your husband wants an official post. When you have decided, send a letter. After this, you and the Wen family will have no relationship. If Rosalind Chen does not become the eldest daughter-in-law of my Wen family, then she will be the only grand aunt-in-law of my Wen family. No matter when, she can be the master of this house. Leave tomorrow morning. Today, your fate with the Wen family is severed. The Wen family owes you nothing. Whether you live well or not in the future is entirely up to you. In the room, aside from the sound of breathing, you could hear a pin drop. It was deathly quiet. Yu Niang collapsed, crying her heart out. Mother, did you hear what father said? He doesn't want his own daughter. Mother, say something. Your father's words are my words. Go, I'm tired. I want to sleep. It seemed Auntie Wen was truly exhausted. Yu Niang's strength was no match for mine. I got off the bed, helped her up, and took her to her room. She wailed, shaking the heavens, ignoring the child crying on the bed. I had tolerated her time and time again today, and I truly couldn't take it anymore. I turned and slapped her across the face. Finally, it was quiet. Let me tell you something quietly. If you still want to rely on the Wen family, the favor Uncle Wen just promised, it can be taken back. Do you believe me? She seemed stunned by the slap. I leaned in and whispered in her ear. She suddenly snapped out of it, her eyes red, and tried to hit me. I caught her hand. A person like me, not only do I have a bad temper, I also like to cross people. How about I find someone to take care of your husband first? What do you think? At that time, will you stay with the Su family as a widow, or return to your maiden home? But by then, you won't have a maiden home anymore. Think about your mother-in-law. If she finds out you caused her son's death, will she tear you to pieces? If I were you, I'd take the benefit and go. Your eldest brother, Caspian, to get where he is today, to keep the Wen family alive. You have no idea what he sacrificed. You never once felt his pain. What right do you have to reach out and pick the fruit he grew with his own blood and flesh? I threw her hand away. She fell to the ground. The next day, Yu Niang left early. I woke up late and didn't even see her. After more than 10 days of care, the two elders gradually recovered. No one else came to the house. Caspian Wen-su sent people to escort them. A son he hadn't seen in 10 years. How could he not miss them? They had nothing to pack, they just had to get in the carriage. Pearl, have you remembered everything I said? The capital is not like here. You must listen to Auntie Wen. Wait for your sister Rosalind to go home and get married. When I come back to Bianjing, I'll come to the capital to get you. You can stay at my house for as long as you want. I'll support you. This is how I coaxed Pearl. She cried, refusing to get in the carriage. I just smiled and soothed her. I didn't know when we would meet again. Perhaps, by that day, I would have really married Godan. At last, I could let him go. The carriage carrying the Wen family departed, seeming to take all my strength with it. I lay in bed for 2 whole days. I packed my luggage, ate a meal, and left the shop to Mistress He. The time was too short, the distance too great. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. The East Sea, Donghai, was 108,000 li from the capital. In the fishing village where I lived, some people didn't even know the current reign's name. I had finally turned myself into an old maiden. But even as an old maiden, I couldn't find my Godan. After all, the man I had met was too dazzling. The spring flowers and autumn moon were not even half as brilliant as he was. Looking at other men was like looking at a pile of rotten cabbage. How could I stomach it? I wasn't picky about others' qualifications. You could say I was an ugly pig myself, but I still wanted a delicious cabbage. After all, a pig's lifelong dream is just that simple. I brought the several hundred pearls I had harvested over the past 2 years. The best ones, of course, were meant for imperial tribute, but I suspect the very best were all with me. By the time I slowly made my way to the capital, it was deep winter and the snow was falling heavily. The pearls in my bag were long gone. My robes now held silver and a few light banknotes. I now had the capital to open a shop in the capital. Once I was settled, I asked for the Wen family's location. It happened to be the day of the winter solstice. When you mentioned Wen-su, anyone in the capital could talk for half an hour. There had never been a younger minister of revenue in any dynasty. The national treasury was now full, and even the emperor's private coffers were overflowing. Taxes had been reduced for 2 years. I really wanted to know where all that treasury silver came from. The key point was, he was still single, the most handsome man in the Daking dynasty. Which family with a daughter didn't want him as a son-in-law? There were also rumors that he had an unspeakable illness, or that he was a cut sleeve, or that he couldn't perform. I just wanted to ask, what happened to that lady from the Grand Scholar Song's family? Where did these rumors of being a cut sleeve or impotent come from? But for such an outstanding man to be unmarried at 31, it really made one wonder. I knew his past. Could it be that he was so traumatized he could no longer like women? Or was he really impotent? Although it was all speculation, it sounded very plausible. The Wen family residence was easy to find. It was the 4th mansion east of the imperial city. I heard his neighbors were Prince Huai's residence and Grand Scholar Song's residence. You could see how blatantly His Majesty favored him. There was no gaudy plaque on the gate, just 2 simple, elegant golden characters. Wen residence. I knew at a glance it was his handwriting. The stone lions at the door were incredibly majestic. I peeked my head in, feeling very shabby. Many people must visit the Wen residence daily. The gatekeeper's expression was blank as he looked at me. I had no calling card and no recommendation. Today was also the winter solstice. The minister would likely be off for 3 days. I feared it would be truly difficult to get through this door. The gatekeeper looked at me again and again, then pulled a piece of paper from his robes. He looked at it, then back at me. Before I could say anything, he let out a yell and ran off, scaring me half to death. The grand-aunt-in-law is back. The grand-aunt-in-law is back. Probably half the capital heard it. How capable must this grand-aunt-in-law of the Wen family be? It was one thing to return to her maiden home on the winter solstice, but why did it sound so terrifying? Enough to startle the old crows hiding in the city shadows. Custom dictated that on the winter solstice, A married daughter was forbidden from returning to her mother's home, for fear of bringing bad luck to her parents-in-law. Then, a group of servants rushed out. The man in front was grinning so widely that a deep crease appeared at the corner of his mouth. He must be the steward. His smile was so wide it frightened me a little. I hadn't broken any laws in the past 2 years, why was he smiling so frighteningly? But after entering, I found it wasn't as luxurious as I had imagined. Everything looked simple, yet not simple at all. The Minister of Revenue managed the nation's silver, yet his residence was decorated with such restrained elegance. It didn't seem to fit his status. Passing through the main hall and the corridor, I saw the capital's courtyards were all square like this. The front courtyard was mainly for work, the back for living. But before I even reached the back courtyard, someone blocked me at the moon gate. We hadn't met in years. He was still as outstanding as ever, his aura even more pronounced. I, on the other hand, looked like the bottom of a soot-covered pot. Even though I had deliberately tried to dress up, I was still an ugly mismatch of colors. I hadn't expected the first person to greet me would be him. He must have just been in his room, wearing only a single robe of white brocade. He wore a white jade belt, and a piece of green jade carved into a rowy knot, exquisite and beautiful, hung from his waist. He frowned, his peach blossom eyes narrowing slightly. The mole at the corner of his mouth was still mesmerizing. The years are always especially kind to beautiful people. He had hardly changed at all. I twitched my lips and called out, "First Master." When speaking of the Wen family, he was the one I felt least familiar with. I could call the others second brother and third brother. But for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to call him eldest brother. "You finally remembered to come home." He bit down, his words laced with thorns. "Yes, this is my maiden home. I can come back whenever I want," I replied, neither soft nor hard. I had just walked in the door and hadn't even provoked him. Why was he angry with me? "It seems marrying out has given you wings. You even dare to talk back to your husband, Gudan. At home it's just him and me. If we both leave, who will watch the child?" He frowned, looking very tired. In truth, I didn't want to argue with him. But those 2 words, loyal servant, were like a curse in my mind, always able to shatter my patience in an instant. "Have you been well? Why are you so dark and thin?" He finally softened his tone and asked. I nodded. "Apart from not having him, everything is fine. What about you? Are you well?" "As you can see, I am now the Minister of Revenue." What could be unwell? He was right. Everything he was doing now was what he wanted to do. No one could force him anymore. What could be unwell? "I'm going to the back courtyard to see my parents. I am the grand aunt-in-law of the Wen family. If I keep calling them uncle and auntie, wouldn't that make me an outsider?" "Go on." I turned to enter the gate. A group of servants followed me as if escorting a prisoner, afraid I would run. I had already come, where could I run? "Rosalind, my child, you god-forsaken wretch. Hurry up and let your mother look at you." Auntie Wen's hair was whiter, and she was still gaunt. She was only in her 50s this year, but already looked like a kind old matriarch. She wore a black skirt, a matching cloak trimmed with white fox fur over her shoulders, and a ruby on her forehead the size of a pigeon's egg. I ran over and knelt before her, not daring to lift my head or say a word, letting her pound my shoulders with her fists. How terrifying the passage of time is. Being together for so long, even without blood ties, can forge a family bond. Wasn't this my mother? For a daughter who had been away for 2 years without a word, being beaten and scolded was only natural. "You wretch. Do you really want your father and me to worry to death?" "Mother, I was wrong. I won't dare do it again. Just hit me. Hit me until you're satisfied." I grabbed her hand and placed it on my chest, looking up at her with tears in my eyes. She pulled me into her arms, her own tears streaming. "You wretch. You're clearly trying to drive your father and me to our graves. Your eldest brother sent people to Bianjing to fetch you. They said you'd gone back to your hometown. They went to our hometown, but you weren't there either. They searched everywhere they could think of but found no trace of you. We all thought you had died out there. Who knew this wretch would still know how to come home? So he had looked for me. Then why did he just ask me so seriously about my husband? Go down. Mother, don't you know I was born in the year of the monkey? How could I die so easily? Don't be angry. Don't ruin your health over a mischievous monkey like me." I stood up, hugged Auntie Wen, and gave her a little shake. "Are you a bear cub shaking a tree? Let go. You'll shake this old body of mine to pieces." I stopped shaking and rested my chin on her shoulder. "Mother, you don't know how much I've missed everyone. But I always had a reason not to come back. because I still couldn't convince myself to give up hope. I didn't have the courage to face it. If you missed us, why are you only back now? Look how thin you've become. Your chin is sharp enough to kill someone. Now that you're home, Mother will definitely fatten you up. Auntie Wen patted my back. It was warm and reassuring. It's too cold out here. Let's go inside. I'm not leaving again. The days ahead are long. Mother can fatten me up however she wants. I helped Auntie Wen into the room and took off her cloak, placing it on the heated Kang bed. A charcoal fire was burning, and a wave of heat hit my face. A maid took my cloak. Auntie Wen pulled me onto the Kang. I saw another woman standing there. She was a little younger than me, with a long face, almond-shaped eyes, slightly dark skin, and a small, diamond-shaped mouth. She wore her hair in a married woman's bun. Judging by her attire, she was clearly a master of the house. I didn't know her identity, and didn't dare greet her casually. This is Hui Niang, second brother's wife. They married last year. I quickly bowed in greeting. Second sister, in-law. She hurriedly reached out to help me up. Grand aunt, in-law has returned to her maiden home. You are the most honored guest. There's no need for such ceremony. Please, sit. The family has been missing you. We never expected you to return today. I've already sent someone to Prince Hui's residence to fetch Pearl. If she doesn't come in with us, she'll probably be here within 30 minutes. When she sees you, I don't know what a fuss she'll make. You'd better save your energy to coax her. Second sister, in-law finished speaking and smiled. One look and I could tell she was a straightforward person, well-mannered and from a good family. Second brother's slow temperament needed someone decisive like her. Pearl is a princess now. I didn't refuse, following her onto the Kang and pulling second sister, in-law to sit with me. She's also one to cause worry. By the time the family found out she was pregnant, your eldest brother had already tied up Prince Hui and dragged him to the palace. His age is only 2 months younger than your second brother. His Majesty whipped him with a cane. He knelt in the palace hall for 3 days. His Majesty couldn't bear it anymore and summoned your eldest brother to discuss the marriage. You don't need to worry about her. She's carrying a child now. Who would dare do anything to her? Auntie Wen's words were dismissive, but they sounded more like bragging. Pearl had married so well. It truly made one happy. It's not just because she has a child. Prince Hui truly treats her like a precious jewel, doting on her. He was supposed to be stationed in Liaobei, but seeing that she was about to give birth, he postponed his departure again and again. It's a good thing you came back today. If Prince Hui still wants to take Pearl away, I'm afraid he won't be able to. Because Pearl was pregnant before marriage, her 3 brothers dislike him intensely. They're always telling Pearl to kick the prince out. Today, I'm afraid he really won't be able to leave. It looks like the general in Liaobei is about to be replaced, second sister, in-law said. I gave her the name Pearl precisely so that one day, she could marry someone who would treat her as such. That man truly treated her well. That was enough. Your brothers, at their age, they're still so immature. Prince Hui dotes on Pearl, willing to give her his whole heart. Where else could they find a brother-in-law so skilled in both literature and martial arts? What are they so dissatisfied about? Auntie Wen scolded with a smile. A maid poured tea and set out some fruit. Auntie Wen picked up a peach blossom pastry and gave it to me. I used to love these back in Bianjing. I'd stand in line at the shop every day to buy them. Auntie Wen probably didn't know they were just jealous. After all, they were older, and they couldn't stand their little sister surpassing them, not just by marrying first, but by getting pregnant first. How could they accept that? Auntie Wen, jealousy makes people wicked, don't you agree? I took a bite of the pastry. It still tasted the same. Imagining them making things difficult for their brother-in-law, egging their sister on, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Auntie Wen thought for a moment and couldn't help laughing too. Second sister-in-law covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. The serving maids also pressed their lips together, trying not to laugh. 3 grown men, still so wicked, refusing to admit defeat, jealous of someone close to them. How could it not be amusing? Is my child back? Father's voice came from outside. I quickly scrambled down and knelt properly on the ground. Yes, your unfilial daughter, Rosalind, has returned. Father entered the room. He had the same build, but his spirits were excellent. He had grown a beard. Seeing me kneeling, he reached out to help me up. It's good you're back. It's good you're back. Father thought we had lost you. Why are you so thin? I helped father onto the Kang. He sat cross-legged and told me to sit beside him. I knelt down and briefly recounted my past 2 years. In truth, There wasn't much to say. I had traveled to many places, seen the world. You must have suffered a lot out there. From now on, just stay home and rest for a while. Stay with your mother and me. Father stroked my head. I was already an old maiden of 25, yet I still had people who loved and doted on me. I was an incredibly fortunate person, wasn't I? Yes, I won't go far anymore. I'll stay home and live comfortably with father and mother. Is the peach blossom pastry good? Isn't this your favorite? You used to line up every day to buy it, eating 4 or 5 at once with peach blossom tea. You were in the middle of eating when he arrived. Let her eat her pastry and drink her tea. She's been outside all this time. How could she have eaten her favorite things? Auntie Wen handed me the teacup. I took 3 gulps. Auntie Wen then stopped me from eating more, afraid I'd be too full for dinner. Second brother and third brother arrived. Father didn't tell me to get down and bow, they didn't have that privilege. A maid brought 2 square stools for them. Last year, second brother passed the exam as the Tanhua, the 3rd place scholar. He now worked in the Hanlin Academy, focusing on cultivating history. Father said he wouldn't force him, he could do whatever he liked. He still had that elegant demeanor. The Wen family members were all good-looking. Second brother loved to smile, his smile was gentle, and he spoke slowly, making one feel like a spring breeze. Third brother resembled father more, he was taller, stronger, and had an honest temperament. He was the only one in the Wen family who didn't like reading. He now held a post in the Ministry of Works, busy building houses for His Majesty. I admired him greatly. Are you disappointed in your third brother? He just ended up as a mason. Third brother scratched the back of his neck, smiling sheepishly. How could I be? Third brother used to say that masons can build majestic palaces, that masons can build picturesque gardens. Things others can't even imagine, my third brother can create. Look, how admirable is that? Third brother's eyes lit up, and he smiled. The gentlemen of the Wen family were all outstanding. No matter what they did, they excelled. Others couldn't keep up. A spinning ball of energy darted past the 2 brothers, flew onto the Kang, and threw itself at me. Rosalind, you liar. You said after you got married and came back, you would come to Bianjing to get me. Where did you get married? Why did it take you over 2 years to come? This ball was the little girl I had raised. If I missed anyone, it was her the most. I never thought that today, she would be about to become a mother herself, yet still act this way. What could I say? I had wanted to hold her and cry, but seeing her tiny frame, I couldn't bear to shed a single tear. Is the skin of pregnant women always this fair and smooth? Apart from her belly, Pearl hadn't changed much. Even though she was married, she still wore her hair in a large bun, exactly like the one I used to tie for her. She sobbed, half pouting, half coaxing. It was terribly endearing. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have come back so late. If there's a next time, I'll definitely take you with me. The handsome black-robed man's face grew darker and darker. I knew who he was and naturally didn't dare say more. If I was accused of kidnapping a princess or something, I'd be finished. This head of mine might not be worth much, but it was important. If you lie to me again, Rosalind, you'll be a puppy. Your sister Rosalind is a pig, not a dog. Who said her simple-mindedness was cured? She's already 22. Why is she still making life-threatening oaths over every little thing? Since when did the little bun I raised become so unreasonable? It took great effort to coax Pearl. Seeing the prince, I naturally had to bow. But Pearl clung tightly to my arm, her eyes glaring at me like 2 lanterns. How could I possibly get down? We are all family. No need for sister-in-law, please remain seated. The prince spoke up, resolving my dilemma. Eldest sister-in-law. How could I accept that? He was the same age as second brother. Genwa, bring a square stool for him. Let him sit with the brothers. It seemed that in our Wen family, even a noble prince didn't have the privilege of sitting on the Kang. I saw that no one else bowed to him either, and the prince was extremely polite, greeting everyone. I rubbed Pearl's head. She had trained her husband well. The whole family sat and chatted. He, Caspian, arrived late. The prince called out to him, but he didn't even glance over. His attitude made one want to kick him. He sat down, perching on the edge of the Kang. Eldest brother, aren't you getting down? Father already said, only Pearl and Rosalind are allowed on his and mother's Kang. You should sit with them. Pearl lifted her chin, laying down the law. I bit my lip, trying not to laugh. You just made your own husband lose face, and look, he's getting his revenge less than a moment later. His, Caspian's, skin was very thick. He stood up calmly, his peach blossom eyes sweeping over Pearl and me. I tilted my chin up to meet his gaze. Weren't you so capable? In the end, there's still something I can do that you can't. A light flashed in his eyes, and he smiled. The beauty of it was soul-stirring. I forgot. Our family is different. The grand-aunt-in-law is the most precious, he said slowly. He then asked second sister-in-law when dinner would be served. It was getting dark. How had it gotten so late already? The whole family gathered for dinner. Did the Wen family not have the, without speaking, sleep without talking, rule? Or perhaps they did, but after surviving such a brush with death, those tedious rules no longer seemed important. The dishes were abundant. I had eaten them before, but most of the people here had not. Father was happy and drank several cups. His sons and son-in-law drank with him. Mother sat in the main seat. I sat beside her, and Pearl sat beside me. Second sister-in-law sat next to Pearl. Even for a round table, this seating arrangement was unorthodox. But who told Pearl and me to be the most precious grand-aunt-in-laws in the house? The few of us gathered and talked. I recounted where I had been and what I had done. I want to see the sea too. After I give birth, will you take me, Rosalind? Pearl asked, fearless. I glanced at the prince. I don't know if it was my guilty conscience or what, but I felt his expression growing darker. I didn't dare say more and just picked up food for her. Rosalind, I want to eat the huntons you make, she said petulantly. Now, I'll make them for you. What kind of filling? Vegetarian or meat? Add green onions. Your Highness, why don't you take your princess home? Our grand-aunt-in-law has just returned, and she's already ordering her around. When you get home, if you want to eat something, make it yourself. Wen Su's Caspian's tone was severe, but I saw the prince actually looked pleased. Only Pearl, tears welling, looked at Wen Su, then turned pitifully back to me. I won't eat them anymore. Rosalind, don't let eldest brother kick me out. She looked as if she would be abused the moment she returned to the prince's residence. Don't cry. After dinner digests, I'll make you a late-night snack, all right? You're pregnant, you can't cry at every little thing. When you give birth, if the baby cries at every little thing, tell me, will you have the patience to coax it? If you get upset and cry with it, will the prince coax you or the baby? You should smile more. Then you'll have a baby who loves to smile. When you cry, he can coax you along with the prince. She tilted her head, thought for a moment, wiped her tears, and started eating happily again. When it comes to coaxing her, only her sister Rosalind is effective. Auntie Wen stroked Pearl's head. Mother, that's because what Rosalind says makes sense. When she was little, I used to coax her to sleep. She had just been separated from everyone and was always scared and crying. I told her, if you want to cry, think about how everyone usually smiles at you, and you will naturally smile. She did as I said, and she really wasn't scared anymore, and she started to love smiling. She asked me why. I told her it's because all the people she misses love her. They smile at her because they hope she is happy. Because she loves them too, she learned to smile. It had been so long, I had almost forgotten. That was before I was a boatwoman. I had some strength, so I worked as a porter at the docks. At night, the boss let me sleep in the docks warehouse. Pearl was so young then and afraid of the dark. She cried so much. I used those words to coax her. I never thought she would still remember them today. Yes, your sister Rosalind is right. You should listen to her more, Father said. It's not that I'm right. These were just excuses I made up to give myself courage when I was alone in a strange land, back when I was young. Our Pearl doesn't need to be like that anymore. The person who loves you is by your side now. He can protect you completely. He'll light a lamp for you in the dark, give you an umbrella when it rains, and put a cloak on you when it's cold. Our Pearl by his side just needs to live happily. Even if every day is just an ordinary day, with him there, those ordinary days become good days. She seemed to understand. She turned her head, glanced at the prince, and then looked back at me, her cheeks flushed, beautiful beyond compare. I stroked her head. There will always be someone who wants to walk with you through the long years. If he loves you, you just need to love him back. You don't need to think too much. After the meal, Pearl and I stood under the eaves, watching the snow. I hadn't seen snow at the East Sea. Father had drunk a lot and had fallen asleep. Mother was watching over him, afraid he'd be uncomfortable. Second sister-in-law, who had been busy all afternoon, went back to the kitchen, saying she wanted to prepare the ingredients for me to make huntons later. The rest of them joined us, watching the snow. I held out my hand to catch the flakes. Pearl copied me. The snow in her palm melted into water, and she brought it over to show the prince. She was a grown woman now, yet simple. New things still brought her joy, and she had someone to share them with. The way the prince looked at her was radiant, his joy unconcealed. From now on, you brothers should treat the prince a little better, I said quietly. It's just, he married our precious little sister, so we're annoyed. Third brother said. Second brother also married someone's precious daughter. Did he get the same treatment when he went to his father-in-law's house? Worse than this. He drank for 3 days and couldn't get out of bed. Second sister-in-law alone has 5 biological brothers. Third brother muttered. Alright, pretend I didn't say anything. When you marry a wife, you must find a family with fewer brothers. That way, you'll worry less about your life, I said to third brother. What you said makes sense, but why didn't you say that to eldest brother? I looked at Wen-Su Caspian, who was standing not far away, wearing a black cloak with a large, white fox fur collar. He stood under the eaves, a picture of elegance. Third brother, look at him. And think about how formidable he is. Who could possibly bully him? If it were me, I certainly wouldn't be able to bear seeing anyone bully him. Rosalind, come to the study with me. I have something to say to you. This was the first time he had spoken to me so seriously. I didn't know what he wanted, but I followed him anyway. His back was straight, his shoulders broad. He walked with a relaxed, casual gait, yet he looked beautiful doing it. Just seeing his back, you could tell he was a handsome man. The study was in the front courtyard, not a long walk, but by the time we arrived, our hair was half white with snow. Walking together in the snow like this, we can be considered to have grown white-haired together. But only this far. I just wanted to be the grand aunt-in-law of the Wen family. Wen-Su could only be my eldest brother. Anything else, I'd forget it. The study was large, filled with all kinds of books. There was a rosewood desk, but only one chair. On the desk, besides the brush ink, paper, and inkstone, there were many calling cards. This study was probably only used by him. There had been a servant boy in the study, but as soon as I entered, he left. The brazier was very hot. I took off my cloak and held it. He took off his cloak and hung it on the rack. It seemed this would take a while. I hung my cloak up as well. He was flipping through the calling cards. I felt bored, grabbed a travelogue from the shelf, and leaned over the desk to read it. Because there was only one chair, I had to stand and stoop. In truth, I knew very few characters, I mostly guessed. I could read a travelogue by vaguely guessing. After all, there were pictures. I leaned comfortably, placing the book far from me. I was very close to him. If he turned his head, he could see my almost perfect profile. I stared, momentarily dazed. Unexpectedly, he suddenly turned and looked at me. Flustered, I lowered my head and pretended to read. Steward's song came to Byeonjing. I heard the official messenger relayed a message to you. You didn't want to marry me. Was it because of the official's words, or for another reason? He spoke seriously. The sky was gradually darkening. The lamp in the study hadn't been lit yet. His features were sharper, his voice deeper. When did I say I didn't want to marry you? I asked, confused. From beginning to end, no one had ever asked me if I wanted to marry him. I refused the marriage to Grand Scholar Song's family precisely to marry you. But you, 'cause you didn't want to marry me. You fabricated an engagement, even daring to deceive His Majesty. You disappeared for 2 years. Were you planning to wait until I was married before coming back? Him. His lip curled, his eyes narrowing, looking both dangerous and intimidating. Why do you want to marry me? I looked at him. Even though I was scared, I didn't back down. Hearing him, it sounded like he was deeply in love with me, as if he would marry no one else. As if to repay a debt. But I already said you don't owe me, you don't need to repay me with your body. I bit my lip looking at him. You are unwilling to marry me. Is it because you think I'm dirty? His long eyelashes drooped, his voice growing deeper. For a moment, I didn't understand his meaning. When I realized it, I was stunned. He really thought that. How could he possibly think that? Where are you dirty? Here, or here? Perhaps the darkness gave me courage. I became so bold. I actually kissed his eyes, then his nose, and finally, his lips. He looked as if he'd been struck by lightning, his eyes slowly widening. I looked at his expression, turned, and fled, leaving my cloak behind. I wanted to slap myself. Why did I have such wicked thoughts? My audacity was as high as the heavens. Didn't I know who he was? He wasn't just some simple cabbage, he was a cabbage grown on a high mountain. What kind of pig knows how to climb mountains? Wasn't this just rushing to my death? For the next few days, I stayed with Pearl, eating and sleeping together. I saw him a few times but didn't dare lift my head. The moment he left for the morning court, I immediately followed Pearl to Prince Huai's residence and stayed there for 10 days. I made up my mind if he didn't mention it, we would let it go. But if he dared to bring it up again, I would play dumb, grit my teeth and deny everything. What could he do to me? On the 10th day, Steward Song, the man from back then, actually came to the prince's residence himself, saying Her Majesty the Empress wanted to see me. Thinking about it, I was a village girl, a former servant, a cook. The boldest thing I had ever done was kiss Wensu. And today, I was going to meet the Empress. Why was I so scared? I wanted to bring Pearl with me. Steward Song refused. I said I wanted to go home and change. Steward Song said it wasn't necessary. Even my path to seeking help was cut off. On the way there with Steward Song, I felt my calves cramping. We haven't seen each other in 2 years, Gur Rosalind. You're still the same. His Grace looks much healthier, too. So, have you married that Gudan fellow yet? Clearly, His Grace knew perfectly well that Gudan was just an invention of mine, that he had only pretended to believe it to protect Wensu. In the past 2 years, there's been a rumor in Bianjing. In a small flowery alley, there's a Mistress Chen whose scolding shakes the soul. It's spectacular. I heard that on that day. The alley was packed with onlookers. This old servant remembers that Rosalind is also surnamed Chen, and just so happens to live in that flowery alley. Is that right? Your Grace, you are advanced in years. Don't listen to outside gossip. There's no such thing. His Majesty heard about this and sent someone to summon the second young master. The second young master has an excellent memory. He recounted the events of that day without missing a single word. It just so happened that the Empress Dowager was also present. She retold the story to the Empress. The Empress then retold it to the other consorts in the palace. Now, if any consort in the palace causes trouble, the Empress just mentions that His Majesty wants to summon you to the palace. The harem is now polite and peaceful. This is all thanks to you. Your Grace, don't scare me. I'm timid. Look, I was living peacefully in Bianjing. How could I have offended the consorts in the capital? Today, you're taking me to the palace. Aren't they going to beat me to death? What are you afraid of? The person backing you is Minister Wen. The person backing Minister Wen is His Majesty. That's the same as His Majesty backing you. Your Grace, that comparison is a bit of a stretch. But then again, before you meet the Empress, I'm afraid you'll have to meet the Emperor first. After all, he has wanted to see you for 2 years. Your Grace, can you please not speak in such riddles? His Majesty was indeed waiting for me in the imperial study. My legs trembled as I knelt on the floor. For a long time, no one told me to rise. Rise. His voice was quite gentle. I stood up, still not daring to lift my head. No one had ever taught me palace etiquette. Naturally, I didn't know it. But one must not gaze upon the Emperor's face. Are you not going to raise your head and let us see you? The Emperor's words were an imperial edict. Since he had told me to raise my head, how could I not? I slowly lifted my head. The Emperor looked very ordinary, but he had an aura with just one glance. You knew he was the Son of Heaven, the Supreme Ruler. His features were plain, but his presence was extraordinary. We heard from Ruchu and Steward Song that you were very fair, even 3 parts fairer than Ruchu. But why is your face so dark? Did you rub pot soot on it to deceive us? Your Majesty worries too much. This commoner has just returned from the East Sea. The sea breeze tanned me dark. With a little care, I'll be fair again. Besides, who gets as dark as pot soot? It's just a little tan. Where is that Gudan of yours? Your Majesty, please forgive me. What could I say? It seemed the Gudan matter hadn't fooled His Majesty. He clearly knew. Yet he was still playing dumb. We summoned you today because we have something to discuss. Ruchu is 30 in this year, the same age as us. Our eldest son is already 13, yet he remains alone. Looking at his ascetic appearance, it's as if he never wants to marry. We hear you are now the grand aunt-in-law of the Wen family, and the entire household listens to you. We wish to grant him a marriage. You should ask him who he fancies. Even if it's a man, we will permit it, as long as he likes him. Also, you know his past. There is a censor in the censorate who, having nothing better to do at court, loves to bring up his past. We have stopped him several times, but that censor's job is to talk, and we cannot always tell him to be quiet. We know about your scolding incident in Bianjing. Those curses, they could be written into a book. Today, we will give you an opportunity. Go and speak a word of justice for Ruchu. Straighten out his rambling, chattering ways. His Majesty turned and walked ahead. I followed behind, not knowing where he was taking me. Go. Invite all the high officials to the open ground in front of Changning Hall. Invite all the consorts from the palace as well. Don't they always say we like to frighten them? Today, we will let them see. Let them see if we are truly frightening them, or if someone, with just a mouth, can make people die of shame and anger. I wanted to say, making people die of shame only works if they have shame. If they are shameless, nothing works. Besides, I wasn't a monkey in the mountains. Having all of you gather to watch me, wasn't that improper? Wensu himself hadn't said anything. By what right was I speaking for him? The so-called Changning Hall was where His Majesty and the officials held secret discussions after court. The space was indeed vast, 100 people could stand there, no problem. His Majesty sat comfortably in a chair, wearing a large fur cloak and a hat. A palace attendant even brought him a charcoal basin. But had he ever considered, did the other officials get such treatment? What about me? I was cold too. In a short while, everyone who could come had arrived. Some had white hair and beards. Some were younger. Some were good-looking, such as Wensu. I hadn't seen him in days. This was the first time I had seen him in his official robes, a bright red ceremonial gown. Only now did I truly understand the meaning of, like jade hewn from rock, like the pine standing tall, his brilliance is singular, unmatched in this world. But why was he looking down, avoiding my gaze? Shouldn't I be the one hiding? He was the dignified Minister of Revenue, yet he couldn't even look at me. I didn't know how many consorts there were. I saw others kneeling, so I knelt. I knew who the Empress was, 'cause only she had the right to wear pure red in the palace. All officials, rise. The Emperor waved his hand, and everyone stood. Except for the Emperor and Empress, no one was allowed to sit. This is the grand aunt-in-law of Wensu's family. Or if she is willing, she could also be the eldest daughter-in-law. Whatever she is, the Wen family deserves her. We heard that for the past 2 years at court, someone has always been dredging up Wensu's past. She said she wanted to hear what this person has to say. You all know, Wensu and I have a few unspeakable things between us. It's only right that we show him some favoritism, and so, we agreed. The moment the Emperor finished, there was dead silence. I gaped. Was this man so ruthless he would even gossip about himself? I wanted to know what these unspeakable things were. And also, from the very beginning, I never had a chance to say anything. Here, gossip, da refers to eating melon, a modern Chinese slang for enjoying gossip. The narrator is shocked the Emperor is eating his own melon pea. Beloved Censor Zhang, how do you usually discuss Wensu? Today, say it for us to hear. His Majesty called out Censor Zhang's name. The censor really did step forward. I saw Wensu standing there, head bowed, motionless as a mountain. Could it be that today's events really had nothing to do with him? Censor Zhang was not old, just over 40. He had a pale, beardless face and spoke cautiously. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes showed his unyielding integrity. He flicked his sleeves and raised his chin, looking utterly indignant. Censor Zhang, wait a moment. Let me speak first. We shouldn't argue to the death. Even if one must die, it should be a meaningful death. Yes, after all, His Majesty has already said, he and Minister Wen have a few unspeakable things between them. Even if you knock yourself dead, His Majesty Han will not necessarily dismiss Minister Wen as you wish. Are you, perhaps, planning to say His Majesty is an inept ruler? This common woman traveled from the East Sea to the capital, crossing almost the entire Daking dynasty. I've taken boats, met fishermen, pearl divers, sailors, and merchants. I've also taken carriages, met caravan guards, and mothers traveling far to visit family. I've met all sorts of people. Do you know what they say when they mention His Majesty? We have an enlightened ruler. Our Daking must surely have the prosperity of the Zhongguan era. The reign of Zhongguan, under Emperor Taizong of Tang, is considered a golden age in Chinese history. I ask you, Censor Zhang, will anyone believe your words alone? Perhaps you will die, and no one will even know. After all, not everyone can write the history books. Furthermore, my second brother, a Tanhua scholar, is currently compiling history at the Hanlin Academy. I know his temperament. As long as he is alive, the history of Daking must pass through his hands. You think, if you force his eldest brother to be dismissed, will he write favorably of you? Also, if you impulsively seek death, do you think, with so many of us here, should we save you? If we save you, we fear His Majesty won't appreciate your unwavering determination. If we don't save you, we couldn't bear it. Since we're on the topic, let me add a little more. I have a brother-in-law, a prince, who is a bit talkative. He's told me about your business with our Minister Wen. Every day you diligently scold him. First, you say he was once a male consort, so how can he be a minister of the state? Second, you say he bewitches the emperor and brings chaos to the nation. Let's talk about the first point. Which law of the Daking dynasty states that a former male consort cannot be an official? He achieved the triple first. He is a Zhuangyuan. His family fell into disaster, and to save his parents and brothers, he had no choice but to submit to the enemy. This is filial piety. Did he submit to the enemy because he coveted power and wealth? He spent years of painstaking effort to thwart the enemy's plot, returning peace to our Daking dynasty. This is loyalty to His Majesty. Censor Zhang, do you feel he shouldn't be alive? That he should have died after finishing his work, only then to be considered clean? Where is he unclean? Where's it just that he slept with a woman? Do you dare guarantee that the women you have slept with have only slept with you? If you found out they slept with other men, would you immediately die of shame and anger? If you can do that, then it's fine to tell him to die. You say he bewitches the emperor. Are you complimenting his handsome appearance? This point, at least, is clear. He is probably 8 or 9 parts more handsome than someone. After all, who doesn't like looking at beautiful people? This common woman has thought about it. Perhaps, at first, you were jealous of his beauty. Then, you became jealous of His Majesty's favor toward him. Censor Zhang, jealousy is something to be kept in the heart. Why must you bring it up every day? As for chaos to the nation, that's even more baseless. The Daking dynasty's taxes have been waived for 2 years, yet the treasury is full, and the granaries are overflowing. I heard grain production has doubled. This common woman would like to ask Censor Zhang, besides you, who else feels there is chaos? A censor is an official of speech. His Majesty gave you the right to speak, not the right to say whatever you want, about whomever you want. This common woman hasn't read many books, but I still understand some basic principles. If one doesn't understand the human heart, they are just muddle-headed, but if their mouth still hasn't been shut, this common woman feels. He is the true sinner. We common folk have a saying, saliva can drown a man. Words are like daggers. I wonder if Censor Zhang understands this principle. I don't know where Censor Zhang's residence is, or who is in your family. When this common woman is free, I will definitely pay a visit. I hear your household is poor, eating congee and pickles every day. Your wife is so starved she is skin and bones. I will bring some food. Censor Zhang won't blame me for overstepping, will he? I just have this bad habit. I haven't even finished managing my own affairs, yet I love to manage others. You must take care of my whole family, and I, naturally, will not dare to be lazy. I will definitely take good care of Censor Zhang's family. Censor Zhang, please say what you wish. This common woman is washing her ears to listen. His skin and bones. Wife actually had a thick waist and round shoulders. His son was a wastrel who caused trouble everywhere. I really did want to take good care of them. Censor Zhang's mouth opened and closed. He didn't utter a word for a long time. He didn't understand village folk. 2 people, even if they are tired enough to fall asleep, can continue arguing. If they lie down and get hungry, they'll eat their fill and keep going. For 12 hours without a break. What haven't I seen? Arguing. Who doesn't know how? After I finished, I felt a wave of relief. The air didn't even feel cold anymore. So young, yet so formidable. A rather chubby official with a long beard breathed out. He must have been a first-rank minister. Your Excellency flatters me. I replied humbly, glancing at Wen Su Caspian. Does he have iron in his head? Why can't he lift it? Did you all hear that? Manage your own affairs. Don't overstep. Alright, that's enough. Dismissed. We still have matters to discuss with Rosalind and Ru Chu. The emperor told them to disperse. Naturally, they dispersed. It's just, the consorts really didn't need to leave so quickly. I don't eat people. Rosalind, the emperor said teasingly. When it comes to scolding, we are only impressed by you. It's common, easy to understand, without a single dirty word, yet you can peel off another's face and stump on it. In the future, if we have a need, in this regard you must not refuse. Your Majesty jests, I said stiffly. Rochu, escort Rosalind out of the palace. Steward Song is getting old, we cannot have him do everything. Take her to the palace gate, and then return. Minister Wen is very busy, this common woman dares not trouble him. Your Majesty, just sending any servant will be fine. Is he not your Minister Wen? What's wrong with him escorting you a short way? It won't delay any of his work. Go, go. Since the emperor had spoken I didn't dare refuse. I resignedly followed behind Wen Su Caspian. So much for the Empress wants to see me. It was all a trick, wasn't it? They say the emperor's heart is hard to fathom. That saying is truly wise. The palace walls are deep, impossibly lonely. He walked ahead, his back straight. The wind fluttered the corners of his robe, like a flower blooming in cold solitude. He was so good, so very good. He had the purity of a scholar, but was not conservative. He had the great talent to rule, and his mind was incredibly resilient and tolerant. That censor had cursed him for 2 years, yet he endured it without a word. He was born handsome, his future boundless, a second-rank high official at 31. He was too good, so good that I felt I truly didn't deserve him. Wen Su. This was the first time I had called his name. He turned and looked at me, his eyes clear, the corners of his lips slightly raised. What is it? Didn't you ask why I didn't agree to the marriage? It's because you are too good. So good that I feel I don't deserve you. Your wife, should be a young lady skilled in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, someone who can discuss the past and present with you, help you manage the household. But I can't do any of those things. The things I can do are all things you don't need. What kind of person is worthy of me? That is for me to decide. That day I returned and moved into the Wen residence. There was no point in hiding anymore. After all, he had already said it. He would decide what kind of person he wanted to marry. I had been overthinking. The Wen household was simple. Second sister-in-law, Hui Niang, managed it skillfully. The years in prison seemed to have scrubbed away Uncle Wen's ambition. He now spent his days writing, painting, or walking his bird and playing chess. I had nothing to do, so I practiced calligraphy with him. We won't talk about how it looked, but I was patient and learned more and more characters. Uncle Wen was pleased, but Pearl stayed at her maiden home, our home, and refused to leave. Prince Huai's face grew darker by the day. Second sister-in-law and I discussed it and cleared out a courtyard for Prince Huai to move into as well. Prince Hui's expression immediately brightened. He brought over bolts of fabric and all kinds of jewelry, asking second sister-in-law to distribute them to the women of the house. The brothers had strong opinions about this, but who cared? Their in-laws were happy. Auntie Wen's eyesight was poor, she could no longer sew or embroider. Pearl and I would chat with her. When someone invited her to a banquet, she would take both of us. Second sister-in-law would also come if she was free. And so, Minister Win's Caspian and Prince Huai would personally escort us there and back. Every time we went, I felt the other women were wary of me, as if walking on thin ice, reluctant to talk to me. But they loved second sister-in-law. They asked about Caspian repeatedly, his preferences, and were incredibly solicitous toward Auntie Wen. I just sat to the side, listening with Pearl. Pearl now had some of the bearing of a princess, but in terms of temper, I'm afraid she learned from me. My eldest brother's marriage, no one can decide for him. Why don't you go ask His Majesty? Her face would turn serious, and no one dared ask again. After a few times, it wasn't interesting anymore. I stopped going. Auntie Wen and Pearl also stopped. Second sister-in-law only went once or twice for social obligations. The weather turned cold. Pearl was over 7 months pregnant. Uncle and Auntie Wen used the new year as an excuse to send her back. I don't know how the prince coaxed her, but she would only come over every 4 or 5 days. When she didn't come, I was even more idle. I spent my nights lighting a lamp, practicing calligraphy, or doing some sewing. I was this old, and it was the first time I'd ever been this idle. Today, the wind and snow were fierce. Caspian sent word that he had a banquet and wouldn't be home for dinner. Uncle and Auntie Wen went to bed early. I dismissed the serving maids, telling them to rest. I really didn't need anyone to wait on me, but Auntie Wen had insisted, assigning 2 13-year-old maids to comb my hair and serve me tea. The north wind howled outside, whistling loudly. It sounded a bit frightening. The charcoal basin in the room burned hot. I let my hair down, wearing only my inner robe, and sat cross-legged on the bed, reading a book of miscellaneous stories Father had given me. It was full of bizarre tales and folklore, extremely interesting. Before I knew it, it was past midnight. A knock came at the door. I put on a coat and opened it. It was Caspian's attendant, Songmo. Master drank too much tonight. He wanted to take a bath. He usually doesn't call for servants, but he's been in the bathhouse for over half an hour. I called several times, but he didn't answer. After a long time, he finally replied. He said he was dizzy and couldn't get out and told me to find the grand aunt-in-law to help him. What was going on? He doesn't let others in, but he's asking for me. I'm an unmarried maiden. What will people think? Look at Songmo's eyes. I couldn't wash myself clean even if I jumped into the yellowed river. Go ask second or third brother. The master only wants you. I remembered the countless scars on his body. Fine. It's not like I haven't seen it before. And my reputation was long gone anyway. After that incident at the palace, who would dare marry me? People already took the long way around me. I put on a cotton skirt and a cloak and followed Song Mo to Caspian's courtyard. This was my first time here. It was no different from the others. The winter was bleak. The snow was ankle deep. I knocked on the bathhouse door and called his name. After a long time he called me in. But his voice was incredibly hoarse. Why did he sound so unwell? I pushed the door open. Inside, a bath, 8 feet long and 10 feet wide, was built in. A long bench was next to it, with towels and soap. He was leaning against the wall of the pool, hair still pinned up. His messy clothes were piled nearby. The water in the pool had no steam, but he had his eyes closed, his face flushed, thin lips slightly parted, and he was panting. What's wrong? I walked over to look. There was a brazier, but the water was ice cold. He was bare-chested, his trousers still on. Rosalind. He opened his eyes. The corners were red. His eyes, scars on his body, though healed, were still visible, deep and shallow. You've been drugged. I bit my lip, looking at him. Looking like this? What else could it be? Who would want to harm him like this? How did he endure it until now? Rosalind. He mumbled again. I looked at him. He was barely conscious. This aphrodisiac was potent. If it wasn't cured in time, he could die. Or, maybe, a selfish thought rose in my heart. I didn't want to find an antidote for him. I loosened my cloak and sat by the pool, looking into his blurred, panicked eyes. The person who drugged him was vicious. They knew what he cared about most, and they wanted to destroy him, again and again. If he had lost control outside tonight, given his personality, he really might have died. It's me. I'm Rosalind. I cupped his face and kissed his lips. He was burning hot, so hot it pained my heart. I cherished him so much, yet someone always wanted to destroy him. He stared at me, eyes wide. I pressed my lips to his, kissing him deeply. Rosalind. He gasped, calling my name. I kissed his eyes, the tip of his nose, the mole beneath his lip, his throat, the scars on his chest. He said he was dirty, but he wasn't, not at all. He just didn't know. I felt like I died and was reborn, feeling his release, hearing him call my name again and again. I must have been truly exhausted. I didn't want to open my eyes. In short, I slept for a very long time. I was vaguely aware of him bathing me, helping me dress, and carrying me back to the warm bed. After that, I truly fell asleep. When Auntie Wen came, my hair was a mess, and I was asleep in his bed until midday. When Auntie Wen woke me, I was still dazed. He was kneeling on the floor, looking impossibly handsome and refined, a gentle look on his face. I was horrified and scrambled to kneel on the bed, but a certain part of me ached. I could only grit my teeth. I had slept with Auntie Wen's biological son. What face did I have to see her? Auntie Wen, what happened last night was all my fault. It was me. I took advantage of him while he was drunk. Auntie hit me. It was all me. I had improper thoughts about him. I was possessed. There were only 3 of us in the room. Auntie Wen didn't speak for a long time. I peeked at Wensu Caspian. He was kneeling as if perfectly righteous. I had never seen him smile like that. Since you've admitted it, Mother won't say anything more. I'll go tell your father to pick an auspicious day. We'll settle this marriage soon. I gaped at Auntie Wen. Her face was wreathed in a kind smile, not a trace of anger. She told me to lie back down, to eat my fill and then sleep, for as long as I wanted. She told Caspian to fetch me medicine, then turned and scolded him. Do you have no restraint? Tiring her out all night like this. What if she's injured? I lay down and silently pulled the covers over my head. What face did I have left? How did Auntie Wen know? I frantically recalled last night. The commotion wasn't just loud, he was like a man possessed, demanding my life. My mother used to say a man with too small a waist was useless. She was lying to me. The next day itself was an auspicious day, no need to even check. His Majesty the Emperor decreed our marriage. The wedding was set for the 8th of the 12th month. It was said to be a perfect day, suitable for all matters. Along with the decree came my dowry, and I was to be married from Prince Huai's residence. I moved into the prince's residence. From the engagement to the wedding, there were only 10 short days. I didn't even have time to embroider my own wedding veil. I had already lost so much face. What was the point of propriety? I heard Caspian came twice, but Pearl righteously chased him away both times. Auntie Wen said it was bad luck to meet before the wedding and told him to go back and wait. He left a peach blossom card. I have long admired you, but you alone did not know. To marry Rosalind, Wensu is mad with joy. I pressed my lips together, clutching the card tightly to my chest. On the day he came to marry me, I held my orchid fan, sitting in the room waiting for him. Pearl sat beside me, sending her maid to watch the door-blocking ceremony. The prince had even invited many famous scholars from the capital to help with the challenge. Rosalind, put your fan down. Your arm will get sore. Eldest brother still has to wait a while before he can get in. Pearl said, her mouth full of peanuts. She loved to eat, everything tasted good to her. I lowered the round fan and stroked her head. Who would have thought that one day, I would be marrying from her home? Caspian probably never imagined it either. If he had, he certainly would have treated the prince better. Rosalind, the day you came home, my husband secretly told me that eldest brother's eyes weren't pure when he looked at you. He said that one day, he would definitely marry you. I even scolded him. Now it seems he was right. Pearl's eyes were clear as she giggled. Before a moment passed, the maid returned, saying the door was open and the groom would be there immediately. I had come here all by myself. And now I was marrying him all by myself. Since I was marrying from the prince's residence, the dowry was naturally prepared by them. I heard most of it was gifted by His Majesty, with more prepared by my new father and mother. Pearl said Caspian brought all his money and property deeds to the prince, telling him to put it all in my dowry. That day, I married him as I had wished. He cherished me, loved me. In his entire life, he never spoke a harsh word to me, nor ever let me suffer the slightest grievance. The perspective shifts to Hui Niang, the second sister-in-law. When Hui Niang first wanted to marry into the Wen family, her father refused. Her father was only a 7th-rank official and had only one daughter. Though their family was poor, they treated her like a precious pearl. The old Madame Wen came personally, but Hui Niang's mother didn't dare agree, saying she had to wait for her father to return. When he returned and learned of the matter, he said he definitely would not choose the Wen family's second master. He said Minister Wen's Caspian was too unfathomable. He looked brilliant now, but his future was uncertain. The Wen family's second master was the Tanhua scholar. She had seen him on the day of the imperial parade. The phrase, gentle as Jade, was probably coined just for him. A man like that, she never dared to dream of him. A few days later, Minister Wen came personally for his brother's marriage. He spoke with her father for half a day, and her father agreed. Only later did she learn that Minister Wen had promised that from his generation onward, the men of the Wen family would not take concubines. Even if they had no children, no heir, they would absolutely not take a concubine. After marrying into the Wen family, Hui Niang learned that married life could be so comfortable and free. Her in-laws were kind, never finding fault or setting rigid rules. Her eldest brother-in-law Caspian was a high official, but aside from being quiet, he was filial to his parents and kind to his siblings. Her younger sister-in-law Pearl, though married into royalty, was simple and lovable. Her third brother-in-law was honest, and her husband, needless to say. But whenever Rosalind was mentioned, Auntie Wen and Pearl would always cry. Hui Niang knew this Rosalind was not a biological member of the Wen family. Bianjing was not far from the capital, and the Wen family's affairs were always a source of curiosity. Because the eldest brother had refused the marriage to Grand Scholar Song's family, rumors spread that had a childhood wife. When the Wen family fell, it was she who went through hardships to raise Pearl, looked after the family in prison, and after their release she rented a house and worked to support them all. When the Wen family was in trouble, no relatives helped. But when the eldest brother became minister, the rented house in the flowery alley was swamped with people seeking favors. The two elders fell ill from anger. It was Rosalind who scolded them all away. That scolding match was even recorded by the storytellers. At that time, she was still an unmarried girl. Her father said if that Miss Chen was really the wife the Wen family raised for the minister, then the Wen family would never suffer a loss. Second brother told her many stories about Rosalind. Hui Niang was both admiring and envious. Every time Rosalind was mentioned, only the eldest brother said nothing. He was quiet and cold. Her father-in-law's Master Wen would always sigh, saying they should have tied her up when they left for the capital. Even if she didn't want to be the eldest daughter-in-law, they should have arranged a good marriage for her, made her the official grand-aunt-in-law. Eldest brother would just frown and say, "She's so ugly, who would she marry? Just keep her in the Wen house." When he said this, his mouth would quirk into a smile, and the cold man would suddenly have a human touch. Pearl would cry and scold him. "Eldest brother, you're lying. How could Rosalind be ugly? You're the ugly one." She was probably the only one who dared speak to him like that. It was said the late eldest princess had countless handsome men, but only towards him. Was she truly sincere? She even said that if she ever ascended the throne, he would be her emperor. One could see how handsome he was, no one in the entire Daking dynasty could compare. Yet, eldest brother would just smile even more brightly, asking Pearl, "Oh, where is she beautiful?" He was clearly just waiting for others to praise her. Pearl would crane her neck and say, "Rosalind has the fairest skin. I've never seen any girl whiter than her. She loves to laugh, and when she laughs her eyes curve like crescent moons. Her teeth are white." The phrase "rosy lips, white teeth" was made for her. Her hair is smooth and long. Gentlemen who came to the shop to eat would blush just seeing her smile. "You tell me, isn't she beautiful?" Auntie Wen would then say, "Pearl isn't wrong. I've never seen a girl who loves to laugh more than her. Her temperament is so gentle and kind. When she gets to the capital, if she just meets people once, I don't know how many gentlemen will want to marry her." And just like that, 2 years later, she really returned. She was wearing a crimson cloak, with a white fox fur hat on her head. When she walked, her strides were wide. She looked incredibly free and unrestrained. It was just as Pearl said when she smiled, her eyes curved, her cheeks were full, and her skin was dazzlingly white. If she didn't say, no one would guess she was 25. Everyone in the family said she had gotten darker. I can't imagine how white she must have been before. Her temperament was truly excellent. She wasn't picky about anything. She was interesting to talk to, and knowledgeable. You could talk to her for days and not feel bored. Crucially, she was also an amazing cook. Pearl loved to wear her hair in a braid. Even after getting married, she never changed it. It turned out she was copying Rosalind. Rosalind was the same, her thick, dark hair in a single braid. When she turned, the braid would swing. It was beautiful. Since she returned, eldest brother Caspian started coming home early every day. Usually, they gathered in Auntie Wen's room to talk. Eldest brother rarely joined, he was very busy. Countless calling cards were sent to the residents daily, and he spent most of his time sleeping elsewhere. But ever since Rosalind returned, after he came home, he stopped receiving guests. He wouldn't go out, even when invited. Eldest brother seemed to love teasing Rosalind. She would tilt her head back, defiantly talking back. He would just watch her and smile, his eyes filled completely with her. Everyone in the family knew he wanted to marry her, only she didn't seem to know. One day, they were standing in the corridor, talking for a long time. She would tilt her head up to speak, he would bow his head to listen, occasionally replying. When she was happy, she'd laugh brightly. When she was unhappy, she'd tilt her head and glare at eldest brother. He reached out and stroked her head. She immediately brightened up again, her eyes sparkling as if they held the stars. My husband, second master, watched them and soon burst into tears. He said, "Hui Niang, look, how perfect they are for each other." Only she understands the injustices eldest brother suffered. Back then, if not for Rosalind, mother might have died. If mother had died, how could we have gone on living? When eldest brother was at his lowest, it was Rosalind who helped us move forward. She once spoke to eldest brother about integrity. Eldest brother told him that if not for her, he would have died long ago. After that, eldest brother married her. Every young lady in the capital was envious. Not envious that she married the minister, but envious of how he treated her. When she married into the Wen family, it was both her husband's family and her maiden family. With father and mother, master and Madam Wen, she acted like a spoiled daughter. But when instructing Pearl, she was neither soft-spoken nor lenient. Even though she didn't do housework, no one in the family disrespected her. Everyone protected her. Eldest brothers, Caspian treated her as more important than his own life. He combed her hair, painted her eyebrows, held her, and kissed her, never avoiding others. Those peach blossom eyes, they couldn't hide anything. After so many years, she still laughed as brightly as the day they first met. Today, when Caspian had the day off, he didn't have to attend court. The summer sun had risen early, shining on the window wall. Caspian woke early, read for half an hour, taught our daughter Chao Rong calligraphy for half an hour, and had breakfast with father and mother, leaving Chao Rong with her grandparents. When he returned to the room, the person on the bed was still asleep, covers pulled over her head, only a pair of feet sticking out casually. Caspian walked over and gently pulled back the blanket. My hair was a mess, and my face was still drowsy. He sat on the edge of the bed, gently brushing the hair from my face. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes curved with a hint of a smile, and my mouth was slightly open, perhaps finding it hard to breathe. It was as if I had grown from his heart. He couldn't seem to look at me enough. Caspian bent down and kissed my forehead. "Rosalind, time to get up. Eat. And then you can sleep more." He wrapped his arms around me. I draped my arms over his shoulders and rested my chin on his long neck, nuzzling him. I want to sleep a little longer, I mumbled. You should eat breakfast first. After you're full, you can sleep, all right, he coaxed me patiently. I shook my head and hugged him tighter. Caspian was helpless, his temper wasn't good, but I don't know why, when facing me, he had endless patience. He just let me lean on him. After about 15 minutes, I finally struggled to open my eyes, letting out a huge yawn. My eyes watered. I knelt before him and lifted my head to kiss the crease at the corner of his lips. I fumbled out of bed. Caspian had already poured water for me to wash, perfectly warm. I washed my face, brushed my teeth, and sat in the chair watching him. He took the comb and tied my hair, his movements practiced and fluid. Minister Wind. Last night I had a dream. In the dream, you told me that you drugged yourself that day. Tell me, was that dream real? I turned my head to look at him, a mischievous smile playing on my lips. His hands paused for a moment before he continued tying my hair. Although I didn't do it myself, I was at least an accomplice. That day, I went to Grand Scholar Song's banquet. Someone in the court was dissatisfied with me and wanted to drug me to make me lose face. I knew about it in advance, I just never exposed it. I drank half that drugged cup, figuring that even if you ignored me, I wouldn't die immediately. He spoke slowly, unhurriedly. I burst out laughing. This matter, if His Majesty hadn't let it slip, I probably would never have figured it out. Everyone knew I wanted to marry you. Only you. You kissed me and then ran away. If I hadn't used a little scheme, I'm afraid I'd still be single now. He also laughed, a low, rich, pleasant sound. At his age, he hadn't even had time to fall for a girl before he was forced to sacrifice himself for his family, for the Daking dynasty. His pride, his integrity, had been tortured to pieces. When he was numb, she appeared unexpectedly, naturally honor, and took him by surprise. She, bringing Pearl, wasn't living a good life, but every time she met him, she was smiling, planning for the future. It seemed that as long as she wanted it, the future would run toward her. He watched her cook, listened to her talk, and felt that he too had a future. He still had a future. He had to grit his teeth and endure. She was quick-witted and incredibly brave. Nothing in this world seemed to daunt her. Only, when it came to him, she always seemed unable to think straight. He had refused a marriage for her, yet she wanted to marry someone else. How could he bear it? 2 years passed, not long, not short. He waited. Who knew she would fall for such a small trick? Rosalind, aren't you angry? He finished tying my hair, walked in front of me, and looked down at me. I was beaming, clearly smug. Why should I be angry? You did that just because you wanted to marry me. Since it was for me, of course I'm extremely happy. It's like, no matter how tall you are, you'll still bow your head when you look at me. You like me. That makes me happy. I lifted my head and kissed his lips. He wrapped his arms tightly around my waist and slowly closed his eyes. In this world, no one understood him as she did. By the time they left the room, breakfast was long over, and it was almost time for lunch. Our daughter, Chao Rong, was kicking a shuttlecock in the courtyard. Seeing her father and mother, she said in her milky voice, "Father, you just keep spoiling mother. What wife sleeps until noon?" She looked just like her father. Though she was young and chubby, she was a little beauty, and just like her father. She rarely smiled. Hearing Chao Rong, I felt no shame at all. I squatted down in front of her and gently pinched her chubby cheek. You're still young, so you don't understand the benefits of sleeping in. Mother sleeps more than father, so doesn't she look younger than him? Clearly, father is more handsome. Chao Rong, just because grandma and grandpa dote on you doesn't mean you can say whatever you want to your mother. Your mother is still very young, much younger and more beautiful than your father. A father is just fooling you and you believe him. Mother, you're already in your 30s. You should grow up. Chao Rong seriously reached out and patted my head, then went back to her shuttlecock. I opened and closed my mouth for a long time, unable to find a rebuttal. Of course you are the youngest, most beautiful person in the world. No one compares to you. Caspian Wen smiled, coaxing me. I nodded. I believed everything he said. Because I knew, in his heart, that is exactly who I was. In the long years of my life, I had already received the best. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? My name is Pearl. That's the name my sister Rosalind gave me. My sister doesn't want me anymore. I lie on the branch of the old scholar tree in the courtyard every day, waiting for her. Because the tree is very tall, I can see far away. To the east, on the other side of the wall, there is a large courtyard. In that courtyard, there is a man who brandishes his saber and thrusts his spear every day. Hey, ha, ho, it's very annoying. I wait for my sister, and he waits for me. Other people say I'm simple-minded. Only Rosalind never scorned me. The things she said most often were, our Pearl is so beautiful. Our Pearl is so smart. Our Pearl is the best girl in the world. But my sister Rosalind didn't know that she was the best girl in the world. She protected me from spring to winter, never once complaining of being tired. During the years when my father, mother, and brothers couldn't protect me, she protected me completely. One of the things she said most was, Pearl, look, no matter what, there is always hope in life. I didn't know what I was supposed to hope for. But whatever Rosalind hoped for, I hoped for too. We hoped and hoped. Father, mother, and my brothers all returned safely. I moved into a big courtyard and became the youngest sister of Minister Wen. I could have whatever I wanted to eat or wear. Life was clearly better, but I didn't have my sister Rosalind. She said she was going back to her village to marry Go Dan at the village entrance. She said after she was married, she would come back to Bianjing. Then she would come and get me, and I could stay with her for a long time, but I can't find her. She never married that Gu Dan in the village. She never came back to our shop in Bianjing. She doesn't want me anymore. My sister Rosalind has abandoned me. The people my eldest brother sent to find her came back and said there was no trace of her. Mother cried until she couldn't breathe, muttering and cursing Rosalind, calling her a wretch, saying she wanted to break her heart. Father sat under the eaves all day, not eating, not drinking, not saying a word. Second and third brother just frowned and sighed. I grabbed eldest brother and asked, where did Rosalind go? Does she not want me anymore? Eldest brother was usually so cold and serious, and he rarely spoke. But that day, he stroked my head and said, the person she loves most is you. How could she not want you? She will come back. When he said this, his lips were even smiling. My eldest brother is incredibly formidable. I believe him. I never liked to cry, even as a child. I heard simple-minded people are like that. But after Rosalind left, I saved the peach blossom pastries she loved most in the cabinet. The pastries grew moldy, but she still didn't come back. Mother had a set of ruby hairpins made for me and her. I put them on the vanity and looked at them every day, hoping one day she would suddenly return, pick one up, look at it, stroke my hair, and say, our Pearl is grown up now. She knows how to dote on her sister. The hairpins are covered in dust. I wipe them, and wipe them again. She still hasn't returned. I ran crying to eldest brother's study. Spring is over. Why isn't my sister back yet? Eldest brother was painting. The person in the painting had curved eyes, a single braid falling over her chest. She was wearing her old, blue cloth robe. The person in the painting was my sister Rosalind. The scholar tree in the back courtyard is very tall. You and I will bring a ladder. We'll climb that tree and wait for her. When she returns, you will see her at first glance. Eldest brother the ladder and sat in the tree with me for a whole day. It was summer, but not too hot with a light breeze. Eldest brother, I want to eat the huntons Rosalind makes. I swallowed. Me too. Eldest brother looked down, lost in thought, a faint smile on his lips. Eldest brother was very busy. He didn't have time to stay with me. I had nothing to do, so I sat in the tree by myself every day, looking far into the distance. The buildings of the capital rose layer upon layer, always blocking my view. I strained my neck, trying to see farther, ever farther. In the summer, Rosalind was supposed to sew me new cotton undergarments. Because I loved to run and sweat, I needed many to change and wash. At night, I hugged Rosalind's portrait to sleep, whispering to it, Rosalind, I'm taller again. My undergarments are too small now. When are you coming home? Just then, Mother came looking for me and heard me. She hugged me and cried again. Mother always said Rosalind was our family's lucky star. Without her, there would be no Wen family. Rosalind was like her own flesh and blood. They couldn't find her, and I don't know how heartbroken they were. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just waiting for her. I listened to her. I eat well and sleep well every day, and I'm happy every day. If she knows I'm being so good, she will definitely come back. Mother gave me a lot of silver pieces. I haven't spent a single one. I save them all in my money box. I take them out and count them every day. My sister Rosalind loved counting money. Every time she counted, her eyes would curve, and she'd say, Pearl, look, we've saved a little more money. When you get married, I'll definitely have a huge dowry saved for you. Now I have money, too. I want to save a dowry for my sister Rosalind. On the other side of the wall is a large, bright courtyard. Every morning, someone is there. Hey, ha ho, he's either brandishing a saber or thrusting a spear. He's tall, but his face isn't fair like my brother's. He has a square jaw. He looks both proper and handsome, very martial. When he wields his silver spear, it's like it's grown from his hand, spinning and flashing. It's beautiful. Whenever my eyes get tired from looking into the distance, I watch him. He likes to wear all black. His legs look very long. My sister Rosalind said it doesn't matter if a man is handsome. The most important thing is that his legs are long. Long legs mean he works with a steady temperament. I know him. He is Prince Y. His name is Jawa. Shen, he's a young general who guarded the border and has just returned to the capital. His title was inherited from his uncle, who revolted. He says the royal family is cold-hearted. Giving him this title was to remind him to stay vigilant at all times. I like to talk to myself. Sometimes he listens, occasionally asking a question. At first, he stood and listened. Later, he sat on the wall. I can talk about my sister Rosalind for 3 days straight without getting tired. He doesn't smile much and doesn't interrupt. He's an excellent listener. It's just that sometimes he seems even more simple-minded than I am. I told him how Rosalind and I lived in the warehouse by the Bianjing River. The rats there were bigger than cats. My sister Rosalind took off her shoe and threw it, but the rat grabbed her shoe and ran off. The next day, she was missing a shoe. She still had to work, so she wore one of my shoes, and I wore one of hers, sitting by the riverbank waiting for her. He then asked, "Why didn't you just buy a new pair?" You tell me, isn't he simple-minded? The silver my sister Rosalind had was for renting the boat. If she bought shoes, how many days would it take to earn that back? When she got off work, Rosalind squatted by the riverbank and made straw sandals. The sunset that day was different from any other. The sky was ablaze in gold, and the light shone on my sister, making her look both resolute and gentle. After she finished the sandals, she put them on and walked back and forth in front of me, saying they were even more comfortable than cloth shoes. I asked Zhao Xian, Prince Y, "Have you ever worn straw sandals?" One day, when Rosalind was asleep, I secretly tried them on. They weren't comfortable at all. The soles of my feet were rubbed raw. Yet my sister Rosalind wore those sandals to haul goods at the dock all day long. I don't know why, but the water in my eyes felt like it was overflowing, unable to hold another drop. It just spilled out, on and on. He sat on the wall, watching me for a long time before he finally said, "Don't cry. If your sister knew you were crying, she would be heartbroken. It's just from drinking too much water." My sister Rosalind said, "If you drink too much water, it flows out of your eyes." I used my sleeve to cover my face. Rosalind said, "Those aren't tears. It's just water coming out. If you cry every day, how much heartbreak would that be?" He jumped down from the wall and stood under the tree, looking up at me. The sun was a bit bright, and he squinted. "I hear the day after tomorrow is your mother's birthday. My eldest brother personally instructed your eldest brother to hold a grand celebration. Do you know what your mother likes?" He clasped his hands behind his back and asked, "What does mother like?" "Mother wants my sister Rosalind to come back immediately. Can you do that?" I looked down at him, asking excitedly. He said nothing, just turned and walked away. Whether he could do it or not, he should have at least said something. Was he going to find my sister Rosalind? Rosalind said the Emperor is the most powerful. He's the Emperor's biological brother. Doesn't that make him the second most powerful? The whole world belongs to the Zhao family. Surely he can find her. On Mother's birthday, the front of our house was packed with carriages. The alley was jammed. Father said His Majesty is not like my eldest brother's Caspian. Our family must be careful in our words and actions. Mother said His Majesty was doing this because of eldest brother's marriage. After all the gentlemen his age already have children, but he isn't even married. This was clearly just an excuse to let eldest brother meet more young women. Whatever the reason, it didn't matter. Eldest brother went out last night and said he wouldn't be back until dark. As long as no woman met him, it was fine. I waited at the gate since early morning, waiting for that prince to bring my sister Rosalind back. But only that Zhao Xia's Prince Huide arrived late, carrying just one box. When I saw him, I rushed over and inspected him from left to right, front to back. "Don't tell me this box of yours can hold a person. Is my sister Rosalind inside?" I stared, wide-eyed. Such a small box. What if she suffocates? His back stiffened. He just stood there silently. "Where is my sister Rosalind?" "I never said I could find your sister. But you never said you couldn't, either." I opened the box. Inside was just a jade Buddha statue. It wasn't my sister Rosalind. It was Mother's birthday, and she was still cruel enough not to return. She really didn't want us anymore. I shoved the box back at him and walked into the courtyard, not wanting to say another word. But today was Mother's birthday. Rosalind had told me that Father and Mother had been through a disaster. I couldn't make them angry or sad. I am a good girl. I listened to my sister Rosalind. I stood quietly behind Mother, listening to her chat with a group of madams her age. They were talking about my 3 brothers, asking if they were engaged, and if not, their family just happened to have a virtuous and gentle daughter, and so on. The question asked most was about my eldest brother, Caspian. Mother said she couldn't make decisions about his marriage. When he wanted to marry, and whom he wanted to marry, it had to be his own choice. So they asked Mother what kind of girl eldest brother liked. Someone who loves to laugh, has a steady and generous temperament, and can endure hardship with him. Mother said with a smile. Why did it sound like she was describing my sister Rosalind? Her Majesty the Empress and the Empress Dowager personally came to attend Mother's birthday. This was a great honor for our family. Unexpectedly, when the banquet started at noon, His Majesty also came, with eldest brother following behind him. Eldest brother's face was cold and his expression didn't improve just because His Majesty had arrived. This was the first time I had met His Majesty. I didn't expect him to be so talkative. The young lady from Grand Scholar Song's family, Yuan Jun, was my age and also unmarried. His Majesty pulled her and my eldest brother together and talked for a long time, even implying that she had delayed her own marriage because she was waiting for eldest brother. In truth, that young lady was incredibly beautiful, a true beauty. But she was the type of girl completely different from the one Mother described. One look and you knew she was a sheltered young lady from a prestigious family, someone who had never tasted hardship. My eldest brother probably wouldn't like her. As His Majesty talked, eldest brother's face grew darker and darker. His Majesty told eldest brother to take her for a walk. Eldest brother's face was black, he looked extremely impatient, but he still led her outside. With his temper, he would probably make her cry before it was over. The elders sat and talked. I listened for a while and felt bored, so I quietly slipped away. I was now the minister's youngest sister. Eldest brother was extremely prominent at court. Even if others looked down on me for being simple-minded, they wouldn't show it. I understood. My sister Rosalind had said, it doesn't matter if others are sincere with you or not. As long as you can tell the difference yourself, that's fine. I knew they only disliked me not so, obviously, because of my eldest brother. There were many young ladies at the banquet today. Our courtyard was large, and the garden was planted with all sorts of flowers. It wasn't like in Bianjing, where we only had a small patch of dirt. Rosalind had tilled the soil there to grow vegetables. From spring to autumn, our yard was always green. The flowers are beautiful, but they're not as good as the vegetables Rosalind grew. They weren't prettier than flowers, but they were practical. Now, our dining table has new dishes and meat every day, but it's never as delicious as what Rosalind cooked. The young ladies had all gone to the banquet. The garden was empty. I missed Rosalind. If she were here, she would definitely grab my sleeve and tell me to go eat. Rosalind. There are so many people here today, but I can tell. Father, Mother, and my brothers are all forcing their smiles. If you were here today, even if Mother only ate a bowl of long-life noodles made by you, she would probably be overjoyed. You told me not to make Father and Mother sad. But why did you do it? You're so mean. Have you really decided you don't want us anymore? Father said he wants to discuss my marriage, to marry me off. Because I'm a grown-up young lady now, I can't live at home forever. But Rosalind, scared. I'm scared that after I'm married, he won't let me come home to wait for you every day. Please come back soon, okay? I squatted in a rose bush. The red roses were in full bloom, their petals like velvet. Rosalind loved red roses. I reached out to pick one but a thorn pricked my finger. A drop of blood oozed out. Flowers with thorns must be cut with scissors. Didn't you know? It was Zhou Xian, Prince Hue. His face was dark, his tone flat. I couldn't tell if he was in a good mood or bad. He squatted beside me and took out a handkerchief to wipe the blood. It's just one drop. It doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt. He wiped it very seriously, very carefully. My brothers had never been this careful with me. Don't you know I've been simple-minded since I was little? Simple-minded means stupid. Stupid people don't feel heartache or sadness, and they don't feel pain. I pulled my finger back and looked at him, replying seriously. He said nothing for a long time, then stood up and held out his hand to pull me up. His palm was calloused. He was a prince, but also a general who guarded the frontier. I took his hand and stood up. My legs were a bit numb from squatting. "You are not stupid," he said. I smiled at him. "Rosalind said I have a dimple when I smile, which is very pretty. My sister Rosalind said so." "What kind of flowers do you like?" "I don't like flowers. I like the vegetables my sister Rosalind grew. When we lived in Bianjing, Rosalind dug up all the corners of a yard to plant vegetables. I watered them every day. I watched them sprout, grow, and finally end up as food on our table. I felt happy. I wasn't completely useless. I could help Rosalind." "You like your sister Rosalind that much?" "You don't understand. When we were going through hard times, my sister Rosalind was as thin as a bamboo shoot, but she never let me hungry once. In the cold winter, she would tuck my feet into her robes, holding me as we slept until dawn. No one dared to laugh at me for being simple-minded because Rosalind would fight them. Outsiders all say the Wen family suffered so much those years, but they don't know that I never knew what suffering was." He looked at me, his mouth set in a resolute line. "Your sister Rosalind is very good. And you are very good, too." He reached out and stroked my head. He was really tall. My 3 brothers were tall, but he was a bit taller. I had to tilt my chin up to see him clearly. "Really? You are very good." Outside of my family, he was the first person to say I was also very good. "Do you know Minister Wen hasn't married after all this time? My imperial brother is about to go gray over his marriage. Maybe the right girl hasn't appeared yet. After all, I've never seen eldest brother look at any girl with a kind expression, except for me and Rosalind." My imperial brother once said. "Minister Wen refused the marriage to the Song family, saying he wanted to marry your sister Rosalind. But this matter was muddled by him and Steward Song. Although Minister Wen didn't say it, my brother feels he holds a grudge, so he feels very guilty and is determined to find a good woman for him." He looked very serious. "Was that true?" I tilted my head, not understanding his meaning. "My brother wants to marry my sister Rosalind. Is that it? Your imperial brother and that Steward Song, they really are unlikable. If Rosalind married eldest brother, she definitely wouldn't have abandoned her family and left." Zhao Shan Prince Hue looked at me, his mouth twitching, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he said nothing. "But eldest brother wanted to marry Rosalind. He liked her. But Rosalind never said. And eldest brother never mentioned it. Only mother once said she wanted him to marry her, but Rosalind refused. I asked her why. Rosalind said, if you like someone, just liking them is enough. If it's mixed up with other things, it's not worth having." Could it be that eldest brother's liking wasn't just liking? If not, why wouldn't she marry him? Even though I didn't understand, eldest brother liked Rosalind, but it was only liking. "Love in this world is a difficult thing," I sighed. "As if you understand." He laughed. When he smiled, he didn't look so fierce anymore. He had the air of a young man. I sat in the tree, waiting for Rosalind. He practiced his spear in the courtyard. When he had nothing to do, he'd sit on the wall and talk to me. I always did most of the talking, he just listened, replying occasionally. I don't know whose child it was, but outside the south wall, a boy pointed at me and said to the little girl beside him, "You must never be like her." What well-behaved girl knows how to climb trees like that? My mother says she's a simpleton. I happened to be holding a pear. I listened to Rosalind. If anyone calls me a simpleton, I must fight back. I threw the pear, and it hit the boy squarely on the shoulder. He looked at the bruised pear on the ground, then at me. I lifted my chin, righteous, and stared back at him. It wasn't my fault. He burst into tears, wailing. The little girl saw him cry and started crying too. Immediately, a young woman ran out of the side door of Grand Scholar Song's house. I knew almost everyone in the Song residence, but I didn't know her. She shrieked, asking the 2 children what was wrong. The boy pointed at me, saying I had thrown a pear at him for no reason. The young woman turned and looked up at me. She wasn't pretty, small eyes, a sharp chin, and no flesh on her cheeks. "Why did you throw something at my child for no reason? Whose child are you? Do you have no manners?" She put her hands on her hips, looking like an oil jar. I was stunned. She was saying I had no manners. I was raised by Rosalind. Saying I have no manners is the same as saying Rosalind didn't teach me properly. Nonsense. How could a girl raised by my sister Rosalind have no manners? I retorted. The woman didn't seem to expect me to talk back. Her mouth fell open, revealing slightly yellow teeth. The wall was close. She was really not easy to look at. I don't know why, but the woman started cursing endlessly. I grew up in the market with Rosalind. What kind of fierceness hadn't I seen? She was nothing. But I didn't want to waste words on her. I climbed down the ladder. The side door wasn't locked, just guarded by an old woman who was hard of hearing. I opened the door and peeked out. The woman was squatting, checking the boy from top to bottom, as if afraid the pier had broken him. She wasn't likable, but she was devoted to her child. Rosalind said you can't judge a person by one side. Everyone has their difficulties. If they have good points, they have bad. If they have bad points, they surely have good. It just depends on how you look at it. I'll forgive her for scolding me. Zhou Xiao's, Prince Huate, was standing behind me. I don't know when he got there. He usually looked so serious, even a bit scary when he wasn't smiling. Why didn't you scold her back? He asked. My sister Rosalind said, if someone throws mud at you, use that mud to plant a lotus. Besides, she's not all bad. I looked at him and giggled. He held out a paper-wrapped bag. I could smell it. It was the 1,000-layer pastry from his kitchens. If we're talking about deliciousness, his family's was the best I'd ever eaten. The days passed quickly. It was already autumn, and chrysanthemums were blooming everywhere. Her Majesty the Empress was hosting a chrysanthemum viewing banquet. I didn't want to go, but Mother wouldn't let me. First, the Empress had personally sent someone to our house with the invitation. Second, I was already of marriageable age. After eldest brother became minister, many people had come to our house to propose. But father would talk to them for less than 3 sentences before chasing them away. Father said they weren't sincere. If they weren't sincere, he said he would rather raise me to old age. Ever since the family's disaster, father, mother, and my brothers had become very serious about one thing in marriage: sincerity. They valued it immensely. Mother said I had to go, so I had no choice. No one from my family was going with me except Mother, but the Empress had only invited unmarried young ladies and gentlemen. Mother gave me endless instructions and then entrusted me to my 3 brothers. This autumn, it had rained incessantly. I was about to grow mold. But today was a rare, beautiful day. The sky was high, the air was crisp, and the autumn wind was brisk. The Empress chose a village estate in the suburbs. I heard it was her dowry. But Mother said the Empress's background wasn't good, perhaps His Majesty had gifted it to her. Mother said Majesty truly had some real affection for the Empress. Rosalind said true affection is the hardest thing to find in this world. For the Empress's banquet, almost all the young ladies and gentlemen in the capital must have come. I didn't know many of them, but the estate was huge and bustling. You could see how many people were there. I didn't really like looking at flowers, but the young ladies were even more delicate than the blossoms. All kinds of bright clothes and perfumes mingled together. I sneezed several times. I didn't know anyone, and my brothers couldn't stay by my side. Second brother had a gentle temperament and was currently preparing for the exams. It was rare for him to get out. Eldest brothers Caspian found several talented and scholarly young masters, wanting him to chat with them. Eldest brother, on the other hand, just greeted Her Majesty the Empress upon arriving. The Empress told him to stay for the banquet, but he said the Ministry of Revenue still had matters to attend to and left early. I knew he was lying through his teeth. It was a holiday, even His Majesty was idle. What business could he have? It was just an excuse. If he had such a good excuse, why didn't he take me with him? How many times had Mother instructed him? Didn't she tell him to watch over me at all times? Eldest brother was so unreliable now. Banquets like this really weren't interesting. Writing poetry, painting, playing the zither, playing chess, I didn't know how to do any of it. Only polo was a bit more interesting. A group of young ladies sat by the polo field. Tents had been set up nearby, with carpets and tables laden with fruits and snacks. Today's weather was rare. I didn't want to sit in the tent, I just stood by the side, watching. On the field, the game had begun. One team wore white, the other black. The man riding the reddish-brown horse looked somewhat familiar. His horse was much taller than the others, his legs were long, and his face was tan. He held the reins in one hand and the mallet in the other. Every time he swung, he hit the ball. The ball flew accurately into the goal, even from far away. His arm strength and equestrian skills were both excellent. All the young ladies on the sidelines were staring at him. Zhao Shan Prince Huade really was impressive. I shielded my eyes with my hand, staring at him. His horse was strong and beautiful. You probably couldn't find a second one like it in the entire capital. I wanted to try riding too, but Mother wouldn't let me, afraid I'd fall. Zhao Xian only played for half a match before leaving the field. Perhaps he felt the skill gap was too large, and it wasn't interesting. He slowly led his horse over to me. I was a bit nervous. The horse snorted in front of me. I reached out and petted its head. "You're so majestic." I walked a circle around it, inspecting it. It was chestnut-colored, without a single stray hair. "Why aren't you in the tent, standing out here in the sun?" Zhao Xian asked. His hair was still damp. He didn't look as stern as usual. He had the air of a young man. "It's a rare sunny day. Wouldn't it be a waste not to get some sun?" "Does he have a name?" "Luguang, flowing light." "Luguang. His name is as majestic as he is." We hadn't even spoken much before the Empress sent someone to summon him. Though I was simple-minded, I could see the group of young ladies gathered around the Empress. She naturally wanted to introduce them to him. "You wait here for me. I'll be right back." He handed the reins to a servant and hurried off. I looked at his retreating back and shook my head. He was still too young and naive. He didn't understand how much married women love to meddle in matchmaking. He was also a prince, which naturally made him even more desirable. I don't know how many women wanted to marry into the prince's residence. He told me to wait. How long would I have to wait? Of course, I wouldn't listen to him. I wandered around the estate. I saw others picking chrysanthemums to put in their hair, so I picked a pink one and had a maid pin it for me. Year after year, month after month, flowers and moonlight, it all goes in circles. If my sister Rosalind were here, life would be much more interesting. Because she was busy every day, with endless things to do. I would sit by the stove, feeding the fire. Rosalind would be cooking meat. She'd use her chopsticks to pick out a piece, blow on it, and give it to me to taste. I'd say, "Delicious." And she would laugh and say, "How delicious. You have to count 1, 2, 3. Just over a single piece of meat we could talk for half a day. Sometimes, I'd learn a new character and teach her to write it. She'd ask about the character's origin as she learned. I'd search through books. Whether we found it or not, we could ponder it ourselves for half a day. Life just passed like that, half day by half day. It passed so quickly. More than 10 years seemed to flash by in an instant. Mother said time passes quickly only when you're living well. I was living well. Every day was good. Only, Rosalind had suffered. Not only did she have to pull me forward, but she also had to protect the entire Wen family. If I had everything, I would surely want to give her the best things in the world. Pearl. The young lady who called me was the young lady from Grand Scholar Song's family, Yuanjun, Lady Song. I curtsied in return. She was slender and delicate, like a willow branch in the wind. On such a beautiful day, she was still wearing a cloak, her cheeks rosy. "Just call me Yuanjun. There's no need to be so polite." She walked slowly beside me. This was the first time I had spent time with another young lady. I was a bit flustered. "The weather really is wonderful today. We must take the books at home out to sun." She glanced at me and said, "Yes, and the blankets, too. The books in my house are all in my brother's studies. They will naturally take care of sunning them. I only sun my own blankets." She pressed her lips, stunned for a moment, and said nothing for a long time. "Your eldest brother. What does he usually do?" When she asked, she seemed a bit shy and lowered her head, revealing a long, beautiful neck. "He's either meeting guests or out. I don't know what he's busy with. Sometimes he's not even home for meals." "Your sister Rosalind, is she beautiful compared to me?" She suddenly stopped, her expression unreadable. I didn't know why she suddenly asked that. "My sister Roland is incredibly fair. My eldest brother is already fair, but she is much fairer than him. She loves to laugh. When she laughs, her eyes curve like crescent moons, rosy lips, white teeth. My sister Rosalind is the most beautiful person in the world. No one can compare to my sister Rosalind." "Is that so? She's that beautiful?" Her voice was faint, as if her earlier enthusiasm had vanished. She left as suddenly as she had arrived. I knew she wanted to marry my eldest brother, but I didn't know why she asked about my sister Rosalind. At the banquet, Her Majesty the Empress invited me to sit at her table. Everyone at the table was royalty. Like Zhao Xian, Prince Huate, I quietly filled my stomach. After the banquet, I waited for my brothers to take me home. Zhao Xian wanted to talk to me, but every time he was about to speak, someone else would talk to him. By the time the banquet ended, we hadn't exchanged a single word. Flower viewing was exhausting. I couldn't wait for my brothers to get me, so I just had the coachman take me home first. When I got home, I immediately tattled to father and mother. They had abandoned their little sister, running off to have fun. But mother just smiled and said, "Good, it's so good that they can still eat, drink, and talk with others." But someone like my eldest brothers, Caspian, who had never even attended a banquet, actually got blind drunk and was carried home by his servants. We didn't know about this. But when he still hadn't returned by dinner, father asked, and only then did we find out he had gotten drunk during the day. Mother was worried, so I went with her to see him. Eldest brother usually stayed in the outer courtyard. It was desolate. His room only had a bed, a table and a chair. He was lying on the bed. He must have been truly drunk. His face was pale, his brows furrowed, and the corners of his eyes were red. I suddenly remembered how he looked on the flower boat that day. Rosalind said he was born beautiful, and because he was too beautiful, he had to suffer so much. Rosalind told me to forget that day, to pretend I'd never seen him, that he was just my eldest brother, and he had always been the eldest brother who loved and protected me. Tears welled in the corners of his eyes, drop by drop. I don't know why they wouldn't stop. Mother called his name several times before he opened his eyes. Mother asked him where he felt unwell. He just shook his head. After a long time, he finally asked Mother. He said, "Mother, is Rosalind angry with me? Is she angry that I never once said I liked her? Is that why she wanted to leave? She's never coming back, is she?" After asking, he closed his eyes again, his expression both fragile and helpless. Today, I finally knew. The person my eldest brother liked was my sister Rosalind. Mother just looked at him, tears falling, scolding him. "Why didn't you say so sooner?" After that, I argued with eldest brother all the time. I knew he liked Rosalind but wouldn't say it. I just changed my tactic and argued with him. If he had said he liked her sooner, why would she have left? I resented him. When he said my sister Rosalind was ugly and had a bad temper, I would just talk back, repeating in my heart 10,000 times, "My sister Rosalind is the most beautiful. She's fair and pretty. You're the ugly one." Every time I argued like that, eldest brother's mouth would curl, and he'd ask, "Oh, where is she beautiful?" His mouth said one thing, but his heart meant another. He explained it with exquisite subtlety. I suddenly remembered. Sometimes when eldest brother visited, Rosalind would be busy in the kitchen. He would lean against the doorframe, watching her, occasionally saying a word or two, his eyes and brows filled with a smile. One day, Rosalind was holding a wooden hairpin, staring at it under the lamplight. I woke up from a nap, and she was still staring. I asked her what was so special about a wooden pin. But she just shook her head and said it was the most beautiful thing in the world. That happened to be a day eldest brother had visited. Thinking back now, he probably made it himself. After it was so crudely crafted, I just realized it too late. If I had known sooner, I definitely would have found a way to convince him to speak his true feelings. If I had, Rosalind wouldn't have left. Winter came early this year. It snowed heavily at the beginning of the 10th month. Even though he had been disowned, Father still wanted to go back to our hometown, to visit our grandparents' graves, to burn some paper money and cold weather clothes for them. My brothers didn't have time. Mother's health wasn't good, and the weather was cold, so Father wouldn't let her go. I had nothing to do at home, so I volunteered to go with him. Our hometown was a 2-day journey from the capital, but the heavy snow made the roads difficult. It was warm in the carriage. Father told me interesting stories about his childhood in the village. I was listening intently when the carriage suddenly stopped. I lifted the curtain. An arrow was embedded in the coachman's chest. He had already fallen to the ground, blood pouring from the wound. I had never experienced anything like this. My mouth trembled as I called out, "Father." Father pulled me back into the carriage and told me to be quiet. I leaned against him, feeling scared for the first time. If I died, what would happen? I hadn't seen Rosalind again. If she knew I died, how heartbroken and guilty would she be? I didn't want to die. I didn't want her to be heartbroken or guilty, still waiting for an invitation to come out. The man outside shouted. Father led me out of the carriage. There were many men in black, their faces covered, holding sabers and swords. Their eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. "Master Wen, go and send a message. We're taking your young lady. You go back and tell Minister Wen, we'll be waiting for him at the eldest princess's former residence. Give him 2 days. If he doesn't come, we'll kill her." One man shoved my father away and put a blade to my throat. I was so scared my limbs went limp, I couldn't speak. One of them threw me face down onto a horse, and he whipped it. The horse's back pressed into my stomach, making me vomit. I could only watch Father's figure, chasing after us, grow smaller and smaller. We rode like that for a whole day. The next day, we arrived outside the familiar city of Bianjing. The city gates were heavily guarded. eldest brother must have known I was kidnapped. They found an old Taoist temple outside the city. There was only one old Taoist priest, who seemed to know them. My hands and feet were tied, my eyes blindfolded, and I was thrown into a room. I was only given one bowl of water. My stomach churned, and I threw it back up. I said I needed to use the latrine. I said it many times, but no one paid attention. For the first time since I grew up, I wet myself. I don't know if it was from shame or fear, but I cried and cried until I fainted. When I woke up, someone was squatting in front of me. His face was already dark, but seeing me, it grew even darker. Zhao Shim. I called his name. He untied the ropes on my hands and feet. I saw he was holding a sword. Blood was dripping from it, drop by drop. The killing intent rolling off him was terrifying. I trembled, looking at him. The tears I had held back finally burst out. Zhao Shine. They wouldn't let me use the latrine. I wet myself. Why didn't you come sooner? Woo woo. I clearly saw him freeze for an instant. Then he took off his black fur cloak, wrapped me in it, and pulled me into his arms. I rubbed my tears and snot onto his chest. It was already dark. I could only see many people lying scattered in the courtyard. Lu Guang, his horse, was outside the temple gate. He put me on the horse. The large cloak blocked the wind and snow. I didn't feel cold. How did you know I was here? I asked. He led the horse, his shadow long and resolute. Your father went to the palace to find your eldest brother. I happened to be there. He replied calmly. How many days has it been? One. Just one day. Why did it feel like so long? Why did they take me? Why did you come to save me? Your eldest brother beheaded the eldest princess. They wanted revenge on him. He just led the horse like that, the horse carrying me all the way back to the capital. He took me to an inn, found clothes for me to change into, and bought me food. I was too scared to sleep. He sat in a chair and stayed with me all night, but he never said why he was the one who came to save me. After I got home, I rarely went out. 1. I was timid. 2. I didn't want to see him. After all, he knew I had wet myself. What face did I have left to see him? I heard father and my brothers gave him many gifts to thank him. In the storybooks, it always says a life-saving debt must be repaid with one's body. I said this to my brothers. Their faces immediately changed. They confiscated all the storybooks in my room, burned them in front of me, and told me never to read such things again. In truth, I hadn't even finished my sentence. I was going to say that I'd probably scare him off anyway. After all, I'm this old and still wet myself. How could I dare offer myself in marriage? Winter nights were gone. My storybooks were gone. I slept all day. How could I sleep at night? I put on a cloak and watched the snow under the eaves. The snow was falling heavily. There was a person standing in the courtyard. He was so bold, climbing the wall into my house. I opened my mouth to call for someone, but then I stopped. I didn't dare look at him. I lowered my head and went into my room. His footsteps were almost silent as he followed me inside. Only one candle was burning. He stood at the table, looking at me. I sat on the stool, clutching my sleeves, not daring to look at him. Why are you hiding from me? His voice was extremely deep. When did I hide from you? I just didn't want to go out. Before I could finish, he suddenly squatted in front of me. The tip of his nose almost touched mine. Is it because you're embarrassed? Anyone would be like that in that situation. He smiled, his nose straight, his features sharp. Why did you climb the wall into my house? I blinked, asking him. Usually, you say you're simple-minded, and I don't believe it. But looking at you now, you really are. I like you. Can't you tell? He said gently. I clutched my chest. I must have measured. He liked me. What was his intention? He was a prince. He didn't need to borrow my eldest brother's influence. And, while he wasn't as handsome as my brothers, he was still a true, heroic man. I told him this. When he said that, he looked just like he was plotting military strategy. You are an excellent man. Why? Do you like me? Your sister Rosalind, didn't she ever teach you? When a gentleman says he likes you, you're supposed to lower your head shyly and ask, do you want to marry me? She never taught me that. I want to marry you. Why? Because you are simple and sincere. I tossed and turned all night. It was the first time I had ever lost sleep, and it wasn't because Rosalind was gone. When I got up the next day and saw the jade pendant carved with his name at my bedside, I truly felt it was just a dream. At noon the next day, he came to my house. He stayed in the study with my father for half a day. After he left, father called me over. Father and mother sat in their chairs, their expressions unreadable. Prince Huai told your father he wants to marry you. Tell me, do you like him? Father told me to come closer, holding my hand as he asked. I I don't know. I don't know what it's like to like someone. I've never liked anyone before. Father sees that he is sincere. How about, you spend some time with him and see. If, by then, you don't like him, we'll forget it. Since father had spoken, he started visiting often. Sometimes we'd ride, sometimes we'd walk. Sometimes I'd just watch him practice his spear. The days suddenly became faster. Only my 3 brothers never gave him a pleasant look. Second and third brother were busy preparing for the exams, but they'd occasionally find excuses to block him, not letting him in the house. Eldest brother's Caspian would just give him a cold look and slam the door. He even raised several fierce dogs and tied them at various points along the wall. Father had to tell the servants to take the dogs away. I squatted under the eaves, giggling, watching the drama. Zhao Xian's Prince Hui's face just got darker and darker, staying that way until the end of the year. Second and third brother both took the exams. Second brother became the Tanhua scholar. The family held a celebratory banquet. My brothers, though their faces were cold, finally opened the door to him for the first time. He used the wine to propose marriage, and was promptly thrown out. My father asked me if I liked him. I remembered what Rosalind had said, being with him. Even if every day is just an ordinary day, because he is there, those ordinary days become different. Father, I think I like him. He's patient, he chats with me, buys me food, and doesn't mind that I'm simple-minded. Father, look at him, is he like Rosalind said? Does he have only me in his heart? Father told him to find a matchmaker. He brought His Majesty, but my eldest brother's Caspian kicked His Majesty out. He only said one thing. Your Majesty, when you were meddling in other people's marriages, did you ever think that one day, your family would be in laws with mine? His Majesty left, dejected. I heard Mother tell Father that eldest brother still remembered how His Majesty had steward Song fabricate that loyal servant. Nonsense, which made my sister Rosalind leave in anger. One night, Zhou Prince Hui suddenly appeared in my room again. He frowned and asked if I wanted to marry him. I nodded. Of course I did. He said if we waited for my brothers to agree, we might have to wait until Rosalind returned. But he couldn't wait. If he didn't marry, he had to go to the border. The border was unstable, with frequent invasions. If he wanted my brothers to agree, there was only one way, and so, he and I cooked the raw rice. At the end of the 3rd month, he found out I was pregnant. He went to the palace and knelt for 3 days, receiving a beating. My 3 brothers, left with no choice, finally agreed to the marriage, their faces cold. In the 6th month, I married into the prince's residence. He said he would take me to the border. I just ate and slept all day. My temperament changed a lot. I said I wanted to go with him. I wanted to wait for Rosalind to come back. He frowned and coaxed me, saying that when we got to the border, he would definitely find her for me, and have her stay with me every day. I didn't believe him. If he could really find her, why would he have endured my brother's anger for so long? At the end of the 7th month, second brother finally married. Although second sister-in-law's Hayes Hui Niang's background wasn't high, she was an excellent woman, with a gentle temperament, and she was very filial to father and mother. I heard mother say that second sister-in-law's father hadn't agreed to the marriage at first. It was eldest brother who personally went to negotiate. I knew eldest brother carried his own pain, so, once second brother liked someone, he would do anything to help him. Although Zhou Prince Hui was our family's son-in-law and was treated well by father and mother, he never received a warm welcome from my brothers. When he came to our house, he would sometimes get drunk or be suppressed by eldest brother. Even though his martial arts were high, his verbal skills were no match for my brothers. He said he couldn't stand losing, so he stayed up every night, reading books by lamplight. I watched his serious expression and couldn't help but smile. On the winter solstice, I ate dumplings for lunch and had just lain down when a maid from our house came. She said my sister-in-law had sent word the grand-aunt-in-law had returned. For a moment, I didn't understand who this grand-aunt-in-law was. The maid said, "Who else could it be? It's the sister Rosalind that your highness misses day and night." I threw on my cloak, not even bothering with shoes. When I reached the house, I stood at the door, quietly listening. The person inside was speaking, her voice unhurried, clear, and pleasant. Wasn't that my sister Rosalind? I lifted the curtain. Rosalind was sitting on the kang, looking just as she used to. It was her. It was my sister Rosalind. In the end, she couldn't bear to leave us. She had come back. That day, Zhao Prince He whispered to me, "Eldest brother's eyes aren't pure. When he looks at Rosalind, he will definitely marry her." My whole family knew. Only my sister Rosalind didn't. Rosalind married from my house. I gave her all the silver I had saved. It was the dowry I had saved for her. Xianxia's Prince Huade prepared 2 village estates for her. He told me to give her all the deeds. He said, "States are the best dowry. If they fight in the future, she'll have a place of her own." Rosalind looked at the box of silver, stroked my hair, her eyes glistening with tears, but they didn't fall. She said, "My pearl is grown up. She's about to be a mother herself. Seeing you find someone who can love you and protect you, I am very happy. The prince treats you with his whole heart. You just need to treat him the same way you've always treated your family. He comes from the royal family. What he has seen most is the treachery of the human heart. Family affection in the palace is cold. Only when he comes to our home is he at ease. Our family only sees him as a son-in-law, not a prince. You two are husband and wife. You should be even more so. Just remember, no matter what, he is your husband." I understood what she meant. I also told her how His Majesty and that steward song had meddled in her and eldest brother's marriage. Rosalind narrowed her eyes and smiled. After a long time she nodded. After that, eldest brother's Caspian married Rosalind, as he wished. With just a wall between us, our homes gradually became livelier. My sister Rosalind pestered eldest brother to build her a swing under the scholar tree. Within 2 days, the swing was up. Another day, she said she wanted to build a door in the wall. That way, it would be more convenient for me to visit my maiden home. Eldest brother pulled a long face and went to find Xianxia's Prince Huade. The 2 of them toiled for a whole day and dug a hole in the wall. Rosalind was not satisfied with the hole. Eldest brother knew how to be an official, but he didn't know how to build a door. In the end, they had to ask third brother to do it. Every day, Rosalind found tasks for eldest brother, and he never refused, always appearing satisfied. I asked her why she did that. Rosalind said, "Perhaps, only this way will he feel that I love him." After that, I gave birth to Zhao Dabao. Less than a year later, second sister-in-law gave birth to Wen Ru. Half a year after that, Rosalind gave birth to Chao Rong. The house became more and more lively. Father and mother doted on their grandchildren and grand-nephew every day. They both looked much younger. As for eldest brother, aside from attending court, he wouldn't go out if he didn't have to. He even painted my sister Rosalind's eyebrows and combed her hair. Who in the entire capital wasn't envious of my sister Rosalind? I think I finally knew what I had been waiting for. Perhaps it was just days like these. Father and mother are in good health. The children, though mischievous, are happy and carefree. My brother and my sister Rosalind found the right person. Every day is just an ordinary day, but because he is by my side, every day becomes special. I hope that all sincerity can be safely preserved. I hope that everyone you love, loves you back. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.